Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 59. I am your host Mo, and I'm joined once again by my sluggerbed friends Jody.
That's me.
And Willie.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, good word. Sluggerbed. Had you guys ever heard that before?
I can't say that I have.
I can't confirm or deny that, but I was not surprised to hear it. Maybe it just speaks to me on another level.
It came up in these chapters and I was just like, is this a word that RJ made up? Like, is it an in-world sort of slang or vernacular? And no, it's a real thing. It's a lazy person.
All right. That explains it.
New tattoo idea.
But these chapters are not about lazy people. There is huge stuff happening in these chapters. Now, we've had a bit of a break. So for those people who are listening in real time as the episodes come out, you'll know that we've had a bit of a break. So I wanted to check with you two who have read ahead. How well do you remember the material that we are covering in this episode? Because now you've read it quite some time ago.
No, I read it again this week. No, I have to. I've read this stretch 3 times. So
that is dedication.
I should remember about 49% of it.
How about you, Phil? I mean, you read ahead.
Yeah.
You'd finished this book ages ago.
Yeah, but I forget which book I'm on, and then I just play whatever once and where it's at and just carry on. I'm like, oh wait, wrong book.
Just place it chronologically via context clues.
It's like because I jump between so many books and audiobooks as well. So just like, cool. Well, just carry on.
I can absolutely see why you both felt compelled to read along, because here, like, where this whole Egwene thing sort of kicks off in Salidar, I mean, that is obviously pivotal for the entire story, but it also just like stuff starts happening now, and it's interesting, and it's not action, but it is it's really important. Like, we all know how important Egwene and the sway that she has over the other Aes Sedai, and, you know, specifically the Salidar Aes Sedai and that sort of stuff. We know how important that is, and it's cool to see stuff of this magnitude happening. And then you think back and it's like, so all of this Egwene stuff that we're mainly going to focus on in these chapters, plus Dumai's Wells, and then the Black Tower and all that stuff, all of this is happening in Lord of Chaos. I feel like Lord of Chaos in my books is crawling up the ranking of Wheel of Time books to the point that it's like, this is fairly near the top for me so far.
It just gets better. I think this book could have been longer. I think a lot of what comes in the next book could have been part of this book.
Right, you were saying that last time.
I think they were, definitely felt that they were rushed to end it or push to make it thinner. I don't know. No, you can't go to 1,500 pages. So there's a lot of explaining.
Stop talking to your friend George R.R. Martin and just listen to Harriet and keep the books to an acceptable length. Okay, well, before we look too far into the future and the contents of the next book, let's quickly take a look into the past as we go over our favorite section called Callbacks. All right. I'll never get tired of seeing you guys dance to a tune that is not playing every time I say the word callbacks. It's almost Pavlovian at this point.
It is playing.
It is. I feel like Pavlova.
Everyone heard it.
Well, yes, the listeners did. Because
it's all about perspective, Moritz.
I just find it endlessly amusing. All right, something else I find endlessly amusing is pedantry. So let's start ourselves off with a good old dose of pedantry.
There we go.
I used the word Laddat in the last episode to talk about my reluctance to move ahead with the story or the plot. And I had to go look up, okay, how is that word actually supposed to be used? And it is, a Luddite is a person that is unwilling to accept new technology or ways of working, which is based on, I think, a resistance to the Industrial Revolution where people were actively breaking machines and stuff to save their jobs. So I was almost there, but had used it incorrectly. Joe's description of a troglodyte was much more suitable.
Some ite.
Yes, it was an ite of some kind. All right, then, since we are being pedantic, Joe, you had asked after the emissary or the embassy from the White Tower had met with Rand, and Rand sort of exposed the Galena-Alviaran connection. You were saying, who's the other Aes Sedai that comments on it and now also knows about it? But it was actually, I think it was one of the two that was with her in the room. It's not back at the house. It's in the carriage as they're leaving the Sun Palace. So Coirin, Nezun, and Galena went to meet with Rand. Rand says, oh, by the way, how's Alviaran? And Galena says, she's fine. And then, sort of like kicks the ground and checks it first. And in the carriage ride back home, it's Nezun that goes, and I didn't know you were close with Alviaran. Galena sort of brushes it aside. So it wasn't a fourth Aes Sedai. It wasn't an extra one, but it was the ladies that were in the room with her. Then I was sort of speculating. I was like, I think I said outright as a fact, which is, as is my want, that Galena was on the Supreme Council of the Black Arger. And I went and just fact-checked myself. And yes, she was in fact second in charge to Alviaran. So they would know about each other and their Black Arger status. So it goes more... it's definitely the Black Arger connection that Galena is referring to or pulling from when she answers Rand. The sea folk seals on the letters that Rand reads. The seal, Jody, you asked, is it the Bowl of Winds? I went back and read the description of it. It's two flattened bowls with an ornate line running from one through the other. There are two bowls on there. I don't know if necessarily, maybe there are two bowls of winds. Shrug.
I don't know. There's a bowl of winds and a bowl of suns and a bowl of waters.
Bowl of winds and a bowl of rains.
Exactly.
Then we were sort of talking, we were trying to figure out, like, when we read about Rand in the previous stretch, he's sort of like in a foul mood and he's busy just shouting at everyone. And Billy, you thought maybe it was because of the conversation with Aviendha, or at very least he's sort of like his tricky situation with Aviendha. But I think what the book, the previous chapter about Rand ends with him talking about Lews Therin. It's sort of like it's Egwene leaving and he's already had, or someone leaving and he's already had an argument with Lews Therin in his head. And then when the chapter starts again, when he's angry at everyone, it starts with Lews Therin was always in his head. And this is a list of the people that he shouts at. He harasses Elayne and Ruark to the point where they don't want to see him anymore. He shouts at Idrian when Herod Fell is not around to talk to, and he leaves her white and shivering. He shouts at Maylan and Marangil, which, is par for the course. I mean, they deserve it. Mm-hmm. He reduces Colavir to tears. Also,
yeah, again,
fine. And Aiella runs away with her skirts hiked to her knees. So this is a noble running away from him, holding her dress up to her knees. And he shouts at Amis and Soralia. So
yeah, that was the worst one.
He is not sparing anybody, and I think it is very much him losing his cool, because the next chapter starts with Rand thinking about Lews Therin in his head, and I think all the signs of his anger and madness are pointing towards him just like losing his cool because of Lews Therin and the madness in general, plus all the other pressure that he's under, right? Like the weight of the world on his shoulders.
He's a madman.
Yeah. Another quick one. I was wondering who was Uno's Shanaran buddy again that tells Nynaeve about how smart Alejandre actually is, and his name was Reagan. He's the guy that greets Rand at the gates of Valda as well. Yes.
We'll call him Ronald from now on.
Okay.
Ronald the Shanaran.
I also just briefly speculated, like, wasn't Eben Hopwell the very first guy that was tested by Mazrim Taim? No, he was in that group, that very first group at the farm, but Dharma Finn was actually the first, or Flynn was the very first guy tested by Mazrim Taim. I went and tried to find out, when does Narishma use Kalandor, because, we spoke about him being sort of Taim showing up and saying, you need to come see this guy, and we all know he's the one that follows after. It's at the battle near Shadow Logoth when Rand and Nynaeve cleanse Saidin. He's using Kalandor to fight off Forsaken. I also mentioned that he provided some preliminary healing to Rand during the last battle, but it's not Rand, it's Lan. We were wondering, where does Niall send Caradon after he's been summoned back to the Fortress of the Light, and he is sent to Altara to organize false dragon swarm to plague the country. We've got some listener feedback about why Niall is recalling all of his troops. We were asking who sent Dane Bornall to the Two Rivers and how does that fit in with the whole timeline. It was after Ordeith tells Niall about the nest of dark friends in the Two Rivers, right? Like he was obsessed with, upsetting the Two Rivers. And then when Niall sends troops there, Bornald volunteers to lead those troops because Child Bayar tells Bornald that Perrin Ibarra killed his dad.
Okay.
Then we wondered about Sheriam and when she turned to the shadow, because she seemed to be genuinely compassionate when Swan is healed, and she's many times throughout the story she shows these acts of kindness that we just don't associate with some of the cartoon villain stylings of the Black Archer, right? Like you think of Leandrin and Galena and those people, like not to like them, and Sheriam is just not that. So I couldn't find a specific mention of when Sheriam was turned to the Black Archer, but what a lot of people reference is that Sheriam, her motivations for going to the Black Archer were purely political. She wanted to increase her power within the White Tower somehow by joining the Black Archer. I don't know how that logic works, but that's her rationale. So she didn't necessarily even agree with their broader moral codes or lack thereof, but she has been Black Archer this whole time.
That's weird.
It is weird, hey?
I don't know. She's not, well, it's not logical, so she's not a white. So that doesn't work.
No.
I don't know.
No. She meets a pretty untimely end when she is outed. So she gets her comeuppance.
That's what happens.
Yeah. Zap sign does seem to be a South Africanism. I went and looked it up on the internet, and Urban Dictionary has one entry for Zap sign, and it is of South African origins.
All right. Well, there, everyone's learned something new.
Not like Urban Dictionary is exactly the bastion of truth that we all look to for answers, but there is some indication.
It's just slightly below Wikipedia.
Yes, the other infallible source of truth.
Yes.
We asked, when does Nynaeve figure out how to heal madness in relation to cleansing of Saidin? She cleanses Saidin with Rand before she learns how to heal madness. So there we have it. Joe, you mentioned when Tom returns that Tom knows about killing warders and that it's nasty business. But were you confusing him with Elias?
I certainly was.
Okay. Rightio, then moving along swiftly. Because I was thinking, like, wait, what does Tom know about killing warders? What am I forgetting? Okay.
Nothing.
Right.
You're not forgetting anything.
It's
me. It's me.
He probably does know that, but not from personal experience. Yeah.
I think it's just general knowledge for people in the know.
And Tom is, if he's anything, he's in the know. Okay, pedantry aside, now we can move on to listener contributions, of which we have a couple, so strap in. Michael Murphy wrote in to chime in on the repercussions of being trapped or harmed in someone else's dream, not Tel'aran'rhiod. He was saying, you lose all control of what happens, but what is happening is merely a dream and not reality. The wise ones warn against looking for someone's dream that you love or hate, but they never discuss it in terms of danger. They discuss it in terms of it being an embarrassment. If there was serious danger, like death, I think they would mention it. They're pretty obsessed with pointing out the risks of dreamers. Given how conservative they are about access to Tel'aran'rhiod, particularly Egwene's after knocking her head, it seems odd so little emphasis was placed on the danger of others' dreams. And then also in this stretch, in chapter 32, Egwene's inner monologue goes something along the lines of, one thing she did avoid was the place between Tel'aran'rhiod and the waking world, the place where dreams floated. Especially, she avoided it after she found herself thinking that if she wasn't very careful, she might be able to peek into Gawain's dreams without being drawn in, and that even if she was pulled in, importantly, it would only be a dream. So
Well,
Egwene answers the question definitively in the second chapter we'll cover tonight. Then Jacob wrote in with the following, saying, we mentioned that it's weird that Egwene didn't recognize Swan or Leanne when she saw them in Tel'aran'rhiod, but Swan says later that to Gareth Bryan that she could walk through the White Tower and she doubts anyone would recognize her except Moiraine because of how different this face looks. I mean, we actually see evidence of that again. A lot of mention from Egwene in these chapters about the girl with Swan's name, like that sort of thing. And then Jacob also said that we had discussed why Luke was sent into the Blight by Gitara Moroso. He was saying that he also thinks that Perrin needed Slayer to sharpen himself for what he needed to do to protect Rand during the last battle. So, Gitara's set of events that she set in motion by sending Luke away might have been specifically, orchestrated by the pattern to get Perrin skilled up enough to actually participate in the final battle in the effective way that he does. And then lastly, Mr. Dependable Ian Yellen had a couple things to say as well. He was saying that while Rand is king of 3 major countries, we shouldn't necessarily assume that he has a lot of money. Most kings get their money from their vassals on their land holdings, which he hasn't had a lot of time to do. And he has been sinking a lot of that money into feeding the starving and setting up schools and paying armies. So he could always use more. But I don't think it's as big a deal as he makes it out to be. But he could still use it. So we made a comment about how much money Rand is entitled to. So I think he's got a lot of credit, but he doesn't actually have a lot of liquid funds necessarily at that point.
Sign of a true rich person.
Yes.
He's got it all in stocks and shares. Most of it's in Tesla.
It's working for him, yes. Not just sitting there in a room.
He's not Harry Potter.
Or Smog. Ian also said that, I know you guys hate the pot scrubbing, but Robert Jordan was obviously enlisted in the army, and one of the most famous types of punishments in the modern army is KP, or kitchen patrol, so he probably has a distinct disliking for pot scrubbing, and maybe carries a bit of a torch for pot scrubbing, as we see in even these chapters. Pedro Niall's plan, with sucking all the Whitecloaks back into the Fortress of Light, is to let the world start to fall apart. And when people get desperate, then the children will swoop in like a savior and everyone will welcome them with open arms instead of distrust and dislike, which goes along with the mission we mentioned just earlier with him sending Caradon into Altara to pose as Dragonsworn and basically sow chaos. Okay. And that was listener contributions. So we only have one piece of admin left before we can get to the meat of this guy, and that is previously on Blood and Ashes. Egwene eavesdrops on a meeting between Rand and the White Tower Embassy hidden by Rand's Weave of Sidene. The Aes Sedai try to soften Rand up with gold, but he plays them like a fiddle and even manages to expose Galena's link to Alviarin. Rand palms them off with an empty promise of letting them know when he'll be ready to escort them to the White Tower. Neziun thinks that the channeler she sensed in the room was Moiraine. Rand is generally in a shitty mood, thanks to Lews Therin and, everything. He has an uneasy conversation with Aviendha, after which Mistress Harfer enters with another letter from a different Sea Folk delegation, different from the one he's already got in his coat pocket. Sulin also shows up in palace servant livery in an attempt to meet her toe for speaking to Gaishane in maiden hand talk. Rand reads the letters from the Sea Folk when Mistress Harfer brings him another letter from Queen Aleandre. While reading all this paperwork, a grey man enters the room and Rand wraps him up in air. And at the last second, before Rand can do anything, Taim appears and kills him with a bar of fire. Rand is pissed. Taim is unfazed. He tells Rand that there's a new student of note that Rand should come check out, called Jahar Narishma. We check in with everyone's least favorite incarnation of an ancient evil, Badan Fane. He's in Camelin and manipulating a Darkfriend mother and son, as well as a scared-looking Fade. He muses on the Grey Man attack and is put out by the fact that a Forsaken, or anyone else for that matter, is trying to kill Rand when he wants to be the one that does it. Then Nynaeve heals Loghain, blam. Then she heals both Swan and Leanne, blam, blam. But instead of being hoisted on shoulders, she's instantly interrogated, and from that moment onward passed between Aes Sedai for interrogation about her methods. Swan and Leanne are both weaker than before, putting them lower in the tower pecking order, but they are reinstated as Aes Sedai. Elayne, Nynaeve, Swan, and Leanne become BFFs. Swan starts to grieve the loss of her warder now that her connection to the One Power is re-established, and Arangar shows up as Halima and institutes herself as Delana's secretary or companion, She knows that Delana is Black Arja, and Delana knows and fears the name Arangar. And that brings us to chapter 31, called Red Wax. Why don't you wax lyrical about this chapter, Jody?
I will.
Look of disapproval.
That's a smile. That's not disapproval.
Okay.
All right. So, chapter 31. Right there we got old Eamon Valda's in the house. He's trotting into the Fortress of the Light. We're back with the old Whitecloaks. With sweat oozing out of every pore. This is a theme throughout these chapters until, I suppose, the Bowl of Wind comes in. There's a lot of sweating out of pores.
It's also a theme in this room right now.
Not yet on this side of the world. He's happy to be home, but he's frustrated and confused as to why he was called back when the divided White Tower was on the point of falling. He says this one shove and he would have taken down those witches. So he is not stoked to be back, and we've discussed that in the recaps now, so we know why he's back. He's heard that Morghese is in town, and this is confirmed from a drunk Bornhold, Dane, that is. He thinks it's another sign that Pedron Denial is weak and needs some stabbing, which does happen. Spoilers. On his way back, he came across quite a bit of Dragonsworn. This is just a little insight into the character of this man, Eamon Valda.
Yes.
He came across all these Dragonsworn, and he cleansed the land of them. But there were so many other refugees and people that were not supposed to be there, innocent bystanders, that it was confusing. So he just killed them all. So eventually, not even distinguishing between the innocent refugees and the Dragonsworn, just get them all off. His quote is, "The innocent should have remained in their homes where they belonged, and the Creator would shelter them anyway." Like, no harm, no foul. Not a lovely man.
He ends that thought with, he deems the wanderers as just plums on the cake. Like,
yes.
He actually took some pleasure out of killing innocents.
That's nasty. Don't be like that, Valda. Come now.
No.
That's okay. He gets dealt with as well. A lot of people do get their comeuppance.
They do.
So after dismissing old brandy-stained Dane. Just came up with that right now.
I like that.
We'll call him that. Brandy-stained Dane. And handing his horse over to the stables, a young questioner approaches him with a suggestion to visit the Dome of Truth. Valda is a little taken aback by this guy, but he is smart enough to recognize a secret code when he hears it, so he heads off to the dome to investigate. At the dome, we get a description of the inside, which sounds magnificent. It's quite a building. There, Raddam Asunawa, the High Inquisitor, or boss man of the Questioners, is waiting for him. Together they plant the seeds that will result in Niall's removal, and the result may be the same for both, but they have different motives for wanting him out. But they'll talk in more detail later on. We just get an introduction to their relationship at this point. So, we pop over to Pedro Niall's point of view, and he's looking down on the courtyard, watching Valda arrive. He's not a fan of Valda. It's like, all right, join the club. And he thinks to himself at this point as well, if there was any way to bring the Children of the Light back from the White Tower and leave Valda behind, he would have done it. But, no. Not possible, since he's actually leading those guys. He and Baller are doing some admin. Baller has some new documents recently delivered by Omerna, if you will recall. He is the fake spy master, including a small stone tube from Varadin out in the west to Terabon. Again, Varadin is sending little messages, so we get to see a bit more about that. It's the same news as before, though. It's Aes Sedai on leashes, it's strange beasts, etc., but there's a mention of a Asidim Faizar. These names are wonderful. Now, this is another Whitecloak he had sent out there in secret, who Varadin is not supposed to know about at all, but Varadin is now helping this man to escape from the Forerunners. So Niall is completely baffled by this. He has no idea. He thinks this is a madman scribbling crap about witches and on leashes and all kinds of things, and Forerunners. So he's a bit lost at this point. Trouble in the West is about as much as they know. So every patrol that they send into Terabon never returns. So, yeah, information coming out of Tarabon to the Whitecloaks is slim at best. And when it does come out, he doesn't know what it means. Niall needs more info, so he tells Baller to arrange for a messenger to go into Tarabon with a letter that he will prepare. He's got a funny feeling that something big is afoot. It's like, yeah, you are right about that. So we jump back to Morghese and her little entourage. They are talking about their planned escape. Young Pater and his uncle, Torwin, have hatched a plan and will sneak Morghese out under dirty laundry. I think they've watched too many bad prison escape movies. It's a very simple plan because it's not going to be the plan at all. Before they can argue any more about it, there's a knock at the door and a young questioner, Ainor Saren, pushes his way in. She is summoned to Niall's office. Office? Yes. They head off on a different route that she is normally taken, and Morghese fears now that she is being led to her death, or at least a little bit of torture. She did not bring anyone with, because that would have been too suspicious, so she's alone. So they pass through a courtyard where there is a hanging taking place, and wouldn't you believe it, there's old Pater and Torwin with nooses around their necks. Before Morghese can even process what's happening, the trapdoors under their feet open, and it's bye-bye to those two and to the escape plan. Now she's wondering if this was all a setup. So a questioner came to fetch her instead of a normal child of the light, bringing her on a different route. Also just happens to pass by her co-conspirators the moment they get hanged. It's all very suspicious, but she keeps her poker face. She is a little bit Aes Sedai and a queen after all. She's even mocking Ainor a bit about him having weak knees at the sight of the hanging. Like she's she's a bit cheeky. I was like, hang on there, lady. Hang on. Don't get ahead of yourself. They have a place for hanging people right there. You know, watch yourself. When they get to Niall's audience chamber, he blatantly ignores her in a little power move until she tells him she is ready to sign the treaty. At which point he's like, oh, great, awesome. He has all the paperwork ready in seconds because it's just been waiting there. Baller brings it out and the thing is signed. So she wants to know when the Whitecloak invasion, let's call it what it is, of Camelin will begin. But now Niall says it'll have to wait. Something else has come up that needs his attention. She's a bit like, yeah, after all of these weeks, you're pushing me, and now is this another power move or has something really come up? So he says, like, look, while you're waiting around, maybe we can play a few games of stones, because she realizes she's heard that he's a good player and she is pretty not too shabby herself. But she'll lose a few to him just to get some more info out of some games. So we jump over to Asunawa now. You remember the old boss man? He's debriefing Ainor about Morghese's reaction to the hanging. Turns out the questioners are just as useless as regular Whitecloaks, and they have no idea of the connection between Pater and Morghese. Apparently they just... It was Trom, wasn't it? Who we've met him before, who smashed the door down into this into this Dark Friend Whitecloak, same thing, into this Dark Friend gathering where they were chanting something. I was like, you've got to be the stupidest black Dark Friends in the world to be chanting like black chants or whatever they were saying. Rights inside the Fortress of the Light. Like, come on, guys. So anyway, they just killed them all before they had any chance to actually think about questioning them if they had any connection to Morghese. But too late. It's done. These guys are dead. So he dismisses Ainor. I'm saying Ainor. And we get an internal monologue of his plans for Morghese. He has a whole Unfaithfully Yours. I don't know if you guys have watched the film Unfaithfully Yours. No? Well, 1980s... you ever watched a film called Arthur? That's the same actor. What's his name?
I have.
Yeah, that short little British guy.
Dudley Moore.
Dudley Moore, that's it. So in Unfaithfully Yours, he's a orchestra composer, and while he's in the beginning, he finds out his wife is cheating on him. So while he's busy doing performing a concert, we go into his mind, and it's this perfect plan. So this plot that Asunawa has is basically ends in her, it's planned out in minute detail, ending in her confession and her hanging. He's going to keep the gallows to put on display in the Dome of Truth and all of that. But anyway, like this film is all played out as well, this perfect plan. And then as soon as the movie starts, after we've seen the whole plan, how it's going to work, everything goes to shit. So this is basically what's going to happen here. So if you haven't watched Unfaithfully Yours, do yourself a favor. And that's the end of the chapter.
Unfaithfully Yours will give me some insights into the Wheel of Time.
This is exactly what's going to happen to Asunawa's plan. But Unfaithfully Yours is hysterically funny.
Okay.
Well, I suppose Asunawa failing is also hysterically funny.
Yeah. I can't remember what role he really plays long term. I know Valda is sort of like the big bad. Someone orchestrates Niall's death via Omerna. Someone convinces Omerna, I think, to kill Valda or to kill Niall, and then Valda kills Omerna. It says, I killed the man that killed the Lord Captain Commander, and I can't remember if Asunawa is.
Guy?
Yeah, absolutely. He set him up so that he would do the deed, and then he could kill him and say, I'm the hero, not the puppet master. But I don't know how does Asunawa fit into that whole gambit?
Dude,
can't remember.
There's too many Whitecloaks, and you don't really focus too hard on them.
No, you don't.
No.
You're asking the wrong questions to the wrong people.
I mean, you're talking
Valda
about the guys that hang dead people because, it's easier to hang a dead witch than it is to hang a live
exactly,
witch.
Yeah. Which is notoriously hard to hang. Valda seems like a legit believer, though, in the cause, right? Like when he rocks up at the Fortress of the Light, he seems that usually when he returns to the Fortress of the Light, his spirits are lifted by the sight of it. Like he's charged up by it. But then they go on to talk about how he's just killing random people on the road. And you're like, wow, okay, what kind of mental gymnastics do you have to go through to marry those two concepts?
I think not all Whitecloaks, but most of them that we meet are believers. Even old Geoffram, even though he was a sensible person, he believed in what he was doing. He chose to be a Whitecloak.
And Galad.
Oh, fuck, I forgot about him. He's back.
And Trom features.
Yeah.
Trom and Dane Bornold free Galad after he's captured by Valda, imprisoned by Valda.
I'm actually a Trom fan. If I'm going to pick any Whitecloak, it's going to be Trom.
Trom and Galad, I like those.
Okay.
Trom seemed like a good sort when he met Nynaeve and Elayne in that Samara. What was that town, Willie, that you remembered, like in the...
Samara, that's right.
Was it Samara?
Something like it.
Yeah, I think we spoke about this as well.
Or
like
a previous town.
The average Whitecloak is probably just born in Amadicia. Like, that's what you do. You either become a blacksmith or a Whitecloak, It's just like, just the job. That's Trom.
I think it would possibly their recruits could come from, they didn't have like a wall to send all their rejects. So they're just like, if you don't watch yourself and get good grades, you're gonna go to the Whitecloaks. Don't have time for bad sons.
The Whitecloaks are like the wall, yeah. Take the black, take the white.
Very similar. Doomed. Valda seems to like Dane Bornold. He thinks that Geoffrey Bornold had been too soft. Okay. He likes Dane more, even if Dane seemed preoccupied with niceties like finding proof of guilt.
Yes.
Jesus.
Yeah, this is the very heavy-handed, blatant Robert Jordan. Don't like this guy.
Signposted. Yeah, this is bad, man. Do not like him.
Yeah, this is not Sheriam writing. This is good old-fashioned.
Yeah. The Dome of Truth, 100 paces across.
It's impressive, magnificent. Even
75 meters for us metric folk. That is large and in charge.
Yeah.
And here you also see signs of Valda already having aspirations of being Lord Captain Commander, like mentioning how Niall won't live forever, like he's a ruthless, ambitious bastard. Got it, RJ. Later, when Niall is talking to Morghese, he does one of those things that I like that RJ does, is he uses a metaphor that is applicable to the character. he's thinking of Morghese, and he goes, Morghese was still resisting like an army on the heights with water and high morale. She refused to admit that she held the valley floor with no way out, and it was her enemy who had the heights. Okay. Of course, this great captain would think in those terms.
Yes. He has the high ground.
I am the one with the high ground. And then while he's thinking about that, he thinks about a specific battle that he was involved in, where an Elayne army had appeared out of nowhere, a place where they were not supposed to be. And that was Tam and the companions.
I was 100% certain that was Tam. When I read that, I was like, oh, that's such a Tam move. Yeah. He's been through some mountains before.
Yes. So just a cool little tip of the hat to Tam and the companions. Did I say the 100 companions? I just meant the Elayne companions.
Nice.
Thanks. I don't have to do a callback on that one. Morghese telling herself that she hates Talanvor, like she won't leave people behind for the Whitecloaks to have, not even Talanvor. Okay, lady, you're lying to yourself here, not very well.
Yeah, it's a bit. This writing as well is getting a bit much for me. Like when she thinks about herself dying and everybody else, like if she ordered the charge, everyone would obey her, but everyone would die. And then she thinks to herself that she would, like when she lists their names, that she's actually more upset about listing Talanvor's name than Linny's name. Shit, that's cold, man.
Yo.
You've only known Talanvor a few years, Anyway, Linny raised you. But yeah.
Yeah, a lot of just reminding, of course. Thanks, RJ, for the reminder that she likes Talanvor, even if she can't admit it to herself. Couple things on Pater here. He refers to Morghese about a failure back home, and that was likely him letting Rand and Matt slip through his fingers in the eye of the world. Confirmation here from RJ that Pater's uncle was in fact just a Darkfriend cohort, because Morghese thinks to herself just how different they look, which is not actually plausible genetic analysis, right? Like, I have plenty of relatives that look nothing like me, but thanks, RJ. Okay, cool, we get it. 2 and 2 makes 4.
It could have been his uncle by marriage.
Totally. So many ways. Yes. But then also I just wrote here, like, interesting that the Dark Friends were hung for being Dark Friends and not because of their plot to free Morghese. And then Asunawa straight up thinks, of course there's no connection beyond the fact that they were Dark Friends and she is a witch.
Yeah.
No, you idiot, wrong. You are so blinded by your hatred.
That's what I told you. They're just as dumb as normal Whitecloaks. They just got different symbols on their chests. That's all.
And then my last note is I really enjoyed when Morghese asks Pedro Nile if he plays stones. He's sort of taken aback by it, and then he sort of just smiles at it and he goes, yeah, I've been accounted a fair player before, sort of in a very condescending way, which makes her face flush in anger, but she turns that into making it look like embarrassment. She's like already like quick on her feet, like, okay, cool.
She's a player.
Because a cowed enemy is not so closely watched as a confident one. And then she thinks about like how she did have a pretty good teacher in Daistar Mar. And yes, the best.
I suppose this is where she this is the area now, because she hangs around here a bit more.
A bunch,
because then she befriends Baller, because that's how she hooks up with Baller later on, and Perrin and Fael, and oh shit, that whole Perrin Fael thing's still coming, eh?
It's coming. But she plays a lot of stones against Pedro Nile, and I think they're like. She's a good match for him. Like, I think he still wins most of the games, but she often also does win. Oh, she lets him, of course, like she says, like she would do here. And I like that Tom was also really good at stones, and that an aptitude for Daistar Mar translates directly to an aptitude for stones. It's been mentioned before in the story. And it's just cool seeing, yes, that makes sense. Pedro Nile, who is a great captain, one of the 5 great captains, is a political maneuverer. You see him starting rumors and like acting, in subtle ways, is also really good at stones, and so is Morghese, and so is Tom. Pipe down, Vinny.
I'm sorry.
Hangover.
No. This is just the chapter. It's not a great one. It's a pretty horrible one.
What?
Well, the characters are pretty horrible. That's true.
Yeah.
All right. So then,
point of
left
views,
and
though.
right.
lots of point of views. That's right. And actually, in a couple of these chapters, we skip around a lot. And I've read one chapter ahead of what we're covering here as well. And again, lots of skipping around. It feels, even the overall chapter lengths, as we've commented on before, now getting a bit shorter. It feels just the quickness with which we are switching between scenes and people and points of view and that sort of thing. It feels like the pace is sort of like increasing.
Is this what you were referring to, Willie, about them trying to rush this book finished?
No, it's more that they're still referring to in the start of Path of Daggers. Path of Daggers, I can't remember. Crown of Swords. That they're still referring to things that's immediately tied to the Dumas Wells incident, before and after, sort of all still around the battle. So your first couple of chapters still very much deals with that. I like things to be complete, not open-ended.
This book is done. Give me more info. New info.
You want to end the book on like a bang, right? You don't want to like let it.
Oh yeah,
fizzle
they did.
Out. Yeah,
it did end on. Well, it does fizzle a little bit. It doesn't end right after Duma Wells.
Is it like the second last chapter?
No, it does. Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, we won't tell RJ to write his books.
No, he can carry on.
Well,
No, he can't.
No, he can't.
He could. He may. All right, then. Chapter 32 is called Summoned in Haste. Vil, who was summoned in haste and why?
Okay, Egwene was summoned in haste because she has to go back. She's got to go back to Lost World. She's got to go. No, let's really actually get into the chapter. I think that's the best thing to do.
Back to the Lost World.
Okay, Egwene's perspective, and we are in Carrion, where
Cape Town.
Egwene is busy dealing with supposed to be getting better after her massive flogging she got from Lanfear. But she's bored, and she's getting herself into trouble by being bored because she's not being trained by the Wise Ones at the moment. So we learned that Savannah had all the other Wise Ones had pulled into the camps there in between the tents. And of course, Egwene is not very happy about this. And she had a couple of things to say about the Shido being in between there. But a Aiel custom is a Aiel custom, and she wins herself a hole to dig and fill up again. The next day, the one thing that she's doing consistently is daily meetups at the inn, at the hotel room with Gowan. And that's been going on, and Gowan's quite enjoying the knee sitting that he's been receiving, to the point that even the innkeeper has now picked up on this little romance that's happening there.
I want a question here. Is that knee sitting a euphemism, or I don't know, like how serious is this knee sitting that's going on between the two of them? Is this Robert Jordan just being coy and using euphemisms?
I'm not going to put my feet
I
in
broke
this.
these two.
I don't know. I feel like Egwene is still like a little bit innocent in that sense. I think it's literal knee sitting and just like making out, and I don't know. That's just how that was my interpretation.
The same as Rand and Elayne were here. Like,
yeah,
they're just kissing in the hallway in the corners and knee sitting, looking at finely turned calves.
Those calves, they're irresistible. It's just maybe like a different perspective that I thought I might take. After, like, you watch the TV show, it's like episode 1, Rand and Egwene are shagging like in the kitchen of the inn. You know, it's like, what?
Yeah,
so you always used to think of this as innocent, as very innocent.
No,
and this is how I've always interpreted it. But I don't know. I thought maybe I'd explore the possibility that it's not so innocent.
That's worth questioning, but my sense is that it's still kind of innocent. What is she, 18?
Oh.
18 when you meet her, 18 months down the line, 2 years down the line, so 20. They don't celebrate birthdays much in these books.
No, they don't. They don't ever mention anyone's.
All right, shall we carry on? Are we done with me
please.
sitting in age now? Okay,
Yes.
good. Egwene is on a daily basis earning herself more penances for getting too chatty over here. She had to do laundry. Then Sorelia was like, nope, not clean enough, redo it again. So she needs to get back to getting into her training again. The sea folk boat still hanging out in the river, and Egwene took it upon herself now with all of this idle time to bully a man into accepting a very small payment, row her out to the boat, and then she tried to get onto the boat. So she stopped and said, "I'll throw over the ladder," and climbed up. And as she sort of got to the top of the rope ladder at the landing, she could see the wind finder. She just sees a blade coming and chops the ladder's ropes, tethers off, and she falls with a scream down into the bottom of the water. Long story short, Eggy overreacts and pulls a Nynaeve on herself and continues to bully now the Windfinder and the Wave Mistress and the boat mistresses, and channels flows of air, spirit, everything else, ties them up, lifts them off, and proceeds to throw them in the river. However, they are cool and calm and collected as they get dropped. They do a nice tumble dive. It's like a little spinny flip and head first in the water to swim straight back to their boat and back on there. But they basically informed her, like, you're trying to trick us. We told you your kind's not welcome here. Stay off the boat. Not welcome.
Now,
so they sense.
I have another question about this.
Go.
Did they know could they sense that she was a channeler before they let down the ladder, and they just wanted to fuck with her and let her climb up, and as she got to the top, or was it only at the top of the ladder that they realized, oh shit, it's an Aes Sedai, and then chop the ladder?
I think the latter.
I think so too.
Right. Okay. Because I didn't know how close they must be again to be able to sense that someone's a channeler.
And they just see her, or I don't know.
Because she doesn't look like an Aes Sedai.
No. Yeah, and I mean, also the wind was blowing in what direction on the water, like so maybe it blows their senses off track.
She was downwind.
She was upwind.
Upwind, downwind. Okay, where was I?
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Basically, sea folk telling her that she has been refused the gift of passage. That's quite serious words that's being used there. Now she's been hauled up onto the boat and demands to be rowed back the other side. Now this is where it's going to get hazy, because my one green pen ran out while I was writing this, and I had to switch over to the
literally hazy
on the page.
Literally the lightest green pen, and the only pen I had on the desk. It is like this lime green. All right, let's try this. So Iggy heads back to the tent in a rush. And like now she's also realizing what a stupid thing she's done. She's trying to hide herself in the city with all the other Aes Sedais that's there. There's the emissary, and she just goes and channels in the middle of the river 4 flows of magic and throws people in the water in the middle of the day, acting like a real child. But anyway, what's done, it's done, and it's not taking back. And then we go through sort of a little bit of a spiel of like 4 nights. Now the wise ones are sort of now testing if she's, I mean, they maybe wanted her legit to heal up because she's really badly busted up, but they started testing and said, okay, cool, it looks like you are recovering, and we'll start going back into the dream. By the 7th night, they sort of say to her, like, okay, cool, tonight you're going to go in, you're going to meet with the Aes Sedai from Salidar. So that is going to happen. Now, we get to that point where they then go to bed. They're going to do their little meeting. She's legit worried about it. Egwene is now very worried. Like, do they know that she's Aes Sedai or not? What is going to happen? And what happens isn't exactly not what she wants or expected. So they pull in there. First, Egwene. She marvels at Calandor, and the next minute, Amis and Bear is there. And they hang around, start talking, thinking, well, how rude is it from these Aes Sedai to be late and how it's wasting time. Then the next minute, 7 of them appear, and Shiriam then sort of gets very official and sort of reads a summons to Egwene that she's been summoned. Do not ask why. Do not ask this. And she's like, okay, cool. This needs to happen. And this is the coolest part of this chapter for me. But she doesn't know how to get there. And a young blue-eyed girl starts channeling Google Earth into the room on the wall and down into the valleys. And it's like next minute, it's like this big game board that you can see the valleys. And okay, cool. And Egwene thinks like, who's this woman with the swan's name with blue eyes? It doesn't pick up on it at all. She gets reminded again, do not ask when she tries to get a little information, that she must just make her way there as soon as possible. And at this point, they start encouraging her. Like they have now picked up Stompy's about what can be done. And like, wait a minute, you can manipulate this world. Why don't you jump into it in the flesh and catch a Ferrari to us and you'll be here real quick. And the wise ones aren't too happy about that. In fact, they're like downright, no, this is not going to happen. They're not going to teach her how to do it. But Egwene admits that she actually knows. How did she learn?
Well,
super smart.
I think she's thinking in that moment, not that she knows exactly how to do it, but Rand had sort of explained to her a little bit of what he does, and she was probably thinking she can combine that with her knowledge of Tel'aran'rhiod to get there. She thinks she knows, so she hasn't done it.
Right. Now, this is the point where the meeting breaks up, all very quick and formal. And everyone taps out, and Egwene still thinks that she's going to talk to the wise ones there, but Perrin and Mies flashes out as well. They don't look happy at all. They're a little bit worked up. And then we jump into, not yet. Egwene wakes up then in her room, immediately channels all the lights on, and she's already packing. Like straight out comes a nice dresses, no more Aiel clothes. It's time to get back to Aes Sedai life. Jump to Rand's perspective. So Rand likes to go and hang around Kalandor every now and then just to gaze at its magnificence in the world of dreams. So he's there when these people rock up for the meeting, and he's like, "Oh, let's do the right thing and hide behind the redstone columns and listen to everything." So Rand gets all the detail of where Salidar is so well that he gets to see a massive map that Google a planet,
big red
Google
arrow,
Earth is a bit like big red arrow, big red cross. That's where you want to go. And he's like, right. And Elayne's there. He knows now. And Egwene's going there. And he's like, okay, cool. We can make this work. And he winks out. And that is the end of the chapter. Oh, as he winks out, he's laughing. Madman Rand.
Yeah. Well, he's been trying to figure out where Elayne is for a long time, and now he's like, okay, haha, got it. Jody, did you have anything you wanted to call out from Summoned in Haste?
Not a single thing. You must have a question.
No, I interrupted you several times.
Yeah, you did, didn't
yes,
you?
You got it out of the way. Listen, what's up with Berylane? She's gone into hiding, and Ruach is on her case for neglecting her duties. Why is she being so hard to find?
Because she's got an Aes Sedai advisor.
Telling her to sort of steer clear of the embassy or something?
I think so. I'm not... Look, this is a stab. Like, it was also weird because she was running the show. Everything was good. But it comes out and Rand finds out later that she's got an Aes Sedai advisor that she did. Okay. Something like that. It's
interesting. Okay, I'll keep an eye out for that one. Also, fucking Savannah just parading around as a wise one. Just saying that she is one. She hasn't been to Ruidian.
That's not how it works.
No.
Savannah. Savannah Dry. She's from the West.
Another South African joke there.
And what, picking up stompies? You're going to have to explain that one, really.
Hey?
What does picking up stompies mean?
I must have used it before. I'm pretty certain I've used it before. But
I
anyway,
feel like we have.
Picking up stompies is when you pick up the tail end of a story and you fill the blanks with whatever shit you want to fill in there.
A stompie is an Afrikaans word for a cigarette butt.
Cigarette bud. You pick up the last bit.
Last bit of a
it's
story.
The thing we do in South Africa. Just go around picking up somebody else's cigarette butts.
Here we have the line that Michael Murphy wrote in about where she says it would only be a dream. So it's in this chapter. I had a good chuckle at Egwene dumping the sea folk into the river. RJ even makes a comment about it, specifically how small the splash of water is, using our Olympic diving sort of standards to judge how good their dives into the water was. But I was wondering what the point of that was.
She just lost her cool, man. There's no point in it. She got dunked in the water, so it's just fair that they get dunked in the water. She had a little naive moment.
I'm not asking what her point is. No, what is Robert Jordan's point? Why did he show us that scene play out? What does that add?
Silence.
I think it's more just to illustrate how Egwene is getting into shit when she's bored. Like, she needs to be used productively or constructively, and she's been not able to do anything. And in this, she's nearly got herself busted by the Aes Sedai that arrived. She's been fondling and knee-sitting.
Fondling. Kafoofling.
Kafoofling and knee-sitting. And
I mean, I think that's part of it. I thought that maybe it was also an attempt by Robert Jordan to show just how, immature she can be, and just how crazy the choice of making her Amelin seat almost immediately after this plays out actually is. Just another reminder, she is very young and impulsive and headstrong, and the choice to make her an Amelin is really a wild gamble. Those people have really rolled the dice, because it happens almost immediately after this.
It happens now immediately after this, but is not showing that she just needs to get something done. And when the switch happens and she gets handed that massive basket of responsibility, she just switches on, and it's like, cool, go. There's no,
it's true.
It's to illustrate that idle
business.
hands is the devil's playground, and look at what she's done.
Yeah, she's not going to just sit idly. No, even when she was supposed to be resting under command from the Wise Ones, she was practicing and learning and stuff. Yeah, she does not sit around.
And we learn about how she has to pay for that as well.
Yes, we do. One last one is she notices Colinya's short hair. Do you guys remember why Colinya has short hair?
I think it burnt off by the
boiling
fires
oil
or something.
Yes.
Boiling oil.
Yeah, she was being lowered upside down into a pot of boiling oil in that nightmare that some of the Aes Sedai encounter in the White Tower.
Okay, that went over my head. I was just like, okay.
She mentions it twice. She mentions it here when she sees her in Tel'aran'rhiod, and when she goes to Salidar and she sees her, she's like, oh shit, her hair really is short. I wonder why she did that. Moving along from that nightmare.
RJ just reminding us how stupid they were. Don't forget, guys.
These women are also idiots a lot of the time. Okay, so then chapter 33 is called Courage to Strengthen. Tell us why and who needs courage, Joe.
Everybody needs courage. Willie needs Dutch courage. And this is Egwene, who needs just normal old regular courage. I suppose it's not normal at all. It's Aiel courage. So, yes, I'm blabbering. Back to Egwene. She is getting dressed for her trip. So, as we recall from the last chapter, she's about to go through the world of dreams in the flesh, much to the disdain of the Wise Ones. So she's busy getting out her old Wetlander clothes, because she has to get, into Aes Sedai clothes now. She's already sent old Cowwind to give a letter to Gawain, so to tell him at least that she's off and whatnot, because she doesn't trust herself actually going there in the flesh. There will be some more of that knee sitting and karfuffeling, I think is the word that Willie would use. So there's none of that.
Yes.
There's none of that. No time for the karfuffeling. As yes, there's a few more loose ends to tie up, and then she's going to be on her way. So at this point, Amis, Bear, and Sorelia enter her tent. She thinks that they are there to punish her. She's just getting that vibe from the look on their faces, but that's just their default, Wise One expressions. But they're like, no, listen.
Wise One face.
Resting Wise One face is just the way it is. They tell her, like... No,
mask of disapproval.
Exactly. It gets worse. Wait until they actually are disapproving. They tell her, like, no, that's ridiculous that we would punish you. You're a woman now. You stopped being our pupil when your sisters called you back, and you got to go. You got to do what you got to do. And Egwene's like, yeah, about this whole sister thing. So she's like, oh, shit, I got some... she's embraced this Aielness about her, and she's going to fess up to everything. It's not just that. So her training kicks in, and she starts rattling off all of her transgressions. She tells them about entering Tel Anriad when they told her not to, when she was ill and whatnot. And then she tells them that she also went alone and unaccompanied. And technically, she's not actually an Aes Sedai. The cat's out of the bag, finally. And now they've just told her that they're not angry with her because, a woman's got to do what a woman's got to do. So they keep quiet. But like I said, there's default resting Wise One faces do harden a tad. The thin lips, I think, is the text exactly. Because, thin lips, that's a deadly sign. Egwene briefly...
You can sense it through the page.
It's again, I'm just getting goosebumps. Egwene briefly contemplates just getting back to Salidar, like ASAP, like telling them, like, listen, I gotta go. Like, I don't have time for this cuck. But she's too Aiel at this stage. She's fully embraced it. She's got that Aiel heart. And she tells them, like, look, I have Toe to meet, and I ask you guys to help me meet it. And they are just so stoked. Like, yeah, we could beat the shit out of her. But before we get to that part... Before we get there, we're going to hop over to Matt. Idea. Don't tell me that I take pleasure in it. It goes on for a while, but we'll cover that later. So we hop over to Matt. We see his point of view. He's playing Snakes and Foxes with Olva in the tent when Rand pops in through a gateway to the band's camp. Band camp? Anyway. Aviendha's there too, of course. She is now sticking to him. He's not going to get away from her. Right. If you recall, like ages ago, she told like the Aiel that were guarding him, like whenever he makes a move, you let me know before he goes anywhere. It seems to be working because he's never left her behind since. Oliver's blown away to see the Dragon Reborn. He's like, oh my god, is that the real Dragon Reborn? Can you just imagine this little kid like traveling with these soldiers and just living the life and meeting the Dragon Reborn? He's amazing. He's having a really amazing life. Well, except for his whole family dying and all that. But I mean, from now onwards.
You paid a heavy price for that life.
We're not going to talk about that part. I mean, from now.
Technicality. Didn't he have to bury his own mother on the side of the road or something?
I think he did.
Something like that.
After his father was murdered by Dragonsworn or something.
This orphan's just living the life. So he does not go to bed, of course, when Matt sends him off to bed, because it's like man talk now, but he hides behind a tent. He's just really bad at hiding because everyone knows he's there. Matt notices and just goes, fuck it, just leave him alone. So they head into Matt's tent for a chat, and there's a new plan. Rand wants Matt to go to Salidar now, take Aviendha with him, bring Elayne back to Andor to take the throne. He tells them like, apparently in Salidar they say there's hundreds of Aes Sedai, but I don't think it's like any more than 50. Like you don't have to worry about the Aes Sedai. You can just loom over them a bit and intimidate them into letting Elayne go. And I'm thinking like Rand has really just got the madness in him, like full on. And Matt's thinking the same thing. Are you fucking insane? If it's just one Aes Sedai, I'm already in trouble. Like fingering that like foxhead medallion under his shirt immediately. Like, oh, I don't want to go there. Please don't send me there. Rand will send the band there.
Rand?
Yeah?
Rand is doing some looming of his own. So maybe he's just unrealistically expecting Matt to be able to loom as well. Just do what I do.
Just do what I do.
Well,
you can
the same.
You can channel stronger than anyone in the world, right? Yeah. No, I can't, dude. I'm not you. But anyway, Rand's like, don't worry about it. It's all sorted. I'm going to send you and the band through a gateway. You guys are you're gonna pick up Elayne, and Nynaeve's there too, so pick her up as well. I'm sure she's not doing anything important. And then they'll all march back together. with the band and the women, and go back to Andor waving the dragon banner. You can scoop up all the dragon sworn along the way because they're making a huge shit show of everything. We can pick them up. If you fly my banner, they'll join you. We'll make a big show, song and dance and a noise, and you bring Altara and Murundi under my control at the same time while going back to Andor. It's a perfect plan on paper. It does sound like a lovely plan, but I have a feeling it's not going to go.
I don't know. To me, it sounds crazy to think that Matt how big is the band, right? Like 7,000?
6,000, I think it was.
Yes, it's a decent army.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a decent force, but just say, okay, cool. So then Altara and Murundi and like all these countries are just going to fall in line, and you're going to conquer them for me. Those are entire countries.
Yeah, and Rand is insane.
Rand is being... Yes, I think he's being a bit slightly optimistic, if I can put it mildly.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's the plan. Matt tries to convince Rand that this is a stupid plan. He's in the Moritz camp as well. Try and stick to the Samael plan. Like, we have a plan already. We've been marching for fucking weeks to get you. We're almost there. They're like, I think it's a day's march from the border of Illian. He's an Illian, right? I've forgotten how long it's been so long.
Is, yeah.
Samael is an Illian, yeah.
Yeah, so they're almost there. Like, come on, man, we're almost there. But no, there's no changing this madman's mind. There's a new plan, and that's that. Rand tells him, look, you're going to have to leave ASAP. Like, how fast can you get out of here? So Matt's like, 2 hours? And he thinks to himself, he could do it faster, but, fuck this guy. I'm in no rush to go into the nest of vipers through a gateway to, like, hundreds of Aes Sedai. Forget it. Rand reminds him again, like, stick close to Elayne. Like, she's super important to this plan. He's like, yeah, Matt's like, yeah, I get it. I'll treat her like my own sister. Which then reminds Rand to tell Matt about Bode. It's like, oh, yeah, your sister's in Camelin, is it? I want to say Camelin, because he's always jumping around.
Yep.
All right. So she's in there with Varen and Alana. Yes, in Camelin, that's right. And, yeah, she's going to be an Aes Sedai, but... not stressing, like, I'm not going to let her go to the tower under these current circumstances with the split and the madness. So she's staying put. Don't worry about her. And Matt's like, oh my God, Bode, that little shit that used to get me into trouble all the time is going to be an Aes Sedai. Like, yeah, man, world's changing. So, oh yes, Egwene might be there too. So bring her along as well. And Matt's like, what? I thought that she was in Kyrian the last time I spoke to her. Now she's in Salidar, halfway across the world, so he figures, maybe she learned that trick that Rand has about traveling. Sort of.
Yeah,
same result, yeah. Basically, stepping through a gateway and then being somewhere else rather quickly. So, yeah, it's technically the same thing. And he's like, yeah, bring her along too, because, the Aes Sedai called her away and she wants to be with the Wise One. So he's got this all planned out. He's going to just forcibly relocate all the women in his life for their own good, because he knows what they want, what's best for them, and besides, they are not doing anything important. So I will take it. And then Matt's also like, yeah, and I'll make sure that they behave. And I'm just like, these guys are all insane. It's not just...
Yeah, what is the extreme version of mansplaining? Because that's what this is. Like, just assuming that he knows best and he'll just move them around like pawns on a chessboard.
Yeah, go to these 500, no, not 500, but like 100. How many Aes Sedai are in Salidar? Like 150? Like a lot.
I feel like it's a couple of hundred, yeah.
It's not 500. I think there's only 500 Aes Sedai in the world at this moment.
1,000 million.
There's less than 1,000 Aes Sedai, and we read somewhere that a third stayed in the tower, a third went to Salidar, and a third remained sort of like waiting in the wings to see what happened.
300.
All kinds of different places.
300-ish.
Yeah, so hundreds.
Hundreds. That's too many hundreds.
Coy of Aes Sedai, won't you say? To sit on the fence. Like a third of them.
They'd be super conflicted.
And also, they're doing shit, which is something that Rand is not taking into account. Like they're not in the tower for a reason. They're out there in the world working. I don't think
doing things.
Yeah, but I mean, didn't a bunch of them run away and just go into hiding? Like,
I suppose.
Like, oh well, I guess it's a good time to go and play a barmaid somewhere serving drinks.
Just lay low, wait till it all blows over.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe there were some.
Yeah.
We're speaking about it like it was an actual historical event.
It was. In another turning of the wheel, Moritz, it was an historical event.
I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to think, trying to picture an Aes Sedai posing as a barmaid with an ageless face.
Unless
I don't think they were hiding.
Mirrors.
I think they were just pointedly not at the tower or at Salidar. I mean, between those two very specific points on a map, there's a vast amount of country, right? Like they could be anywhere in any shape. They don't have to hide who they are.
No,
they would in fact struggle to do that. But
and also,
they just don't have to be at the tower or Salidar.
I mean, like you say, there's a large continent. They can't travel. So even if they are going back to the tower, it would take them months and months. Like if someone's in Ibu Dar, like how the hell it'll take them months to get back home. So
didn't Adelaus and Van Dien just like rock up at Salidar?
Yes, they're going to later on. So and they were what, in the Borderlands?
Yeah, they went.
Oh,
yeah, they were setting myself for
here we go.
Callback. Candor.
They were in Candor or somewhere.
That might actually be accurate.
Borderlands.
Hey.
Yeah.
But yes, they were far away.
That might actually be accurate. Yay! I might be right about something. So anyway.
For once.
Yeah, so there's many reasons why they're not all there. But anyway, there's hundreds of them. And Matt's just going to walk in there and make sure that these women behave and come home with him. He also tells Matt that Tom will also probably be there and gives him Moraine's letter to pass on as well. There's a seal on it that Matt doesn't recognize, but we know it's Moraine's letter. Rand...
We also don't recognize it.
Yeah, we don't recognize it because it's a different color and a different emblem.
Yes,
is it the same?
Not a serpent like the one
Is it
Moraine. Moraine sealed those letters with her Aes Sedai ring when she wrote them. And here where Rand hands it over, it's the spreading tree with a crown above it, the sigil of House Damodred.
And now... Well, is that a mistake, or did somebody fuck with that letter? I don't know. We're not going to go there now. Easy, guys. Easy. We'll leave that speculation.
I think it's
a mistake.
Red herring.
Red herring.
Red herring. I mean,
that's the one.
The contents of that letter to Tom is about Tom helping Matt to go save Moraine.
Yeah.
And it was very specific instructions, right? So I don't think anyone fucked with it because it did play out the way it was supposed to.
That is quite correct.
But I mean, someone broke the seal, read it, and then sealed it up again.
I wonder.
Put
a pin in it.
It's a huge error. Like the symbol changes, the actual design on it changes, and the color of the wax changes from book to book.
Yeah.
Seems a bit much. Anyway.
Moraine gave it directly to Rand?
Yep.
Yes.
Rand had
in front of Matt.
Time.
Remember?
Yes. Maybe this is why Matt doesn't recognize the letter, because the seal's completely different. Like, wait a minute, this is a new letter. This is different.
Rand, he saw that letter. He saw that seal.
Gets his letter and he opens it, and she tells him about the wards that would have set whatever.
Yeah.
So he decides, okay, well, just as well he doesn't open the other letter because he expects the same wards would be set on that letter. Right. So I don't think Rand has got anything to do with it. But for me, it's just such a blatantly big, massive,
mistake.
It is not a small thing. Yeah. It's not like, he left a Zippo for her to light a candle once a year. Or she left him a Zippo. Like the Zippo's colors changes. This is like a big plot line. It's bringing a major protagonist back from the dead. You'd remember the letter with the instructions to get it done. It's a kind of like, that letter.
But the letter is the important part. The seal is less important. I feel like what may have happened is, I mean, when writing the story, I'm just going to speculate here wildly. But like when writing a story with this many characters and like this much content and like this many, can you imagine what Robert Jordan's notes looked like? Like how many things he was keeping track of, and then. Obviously, you would expect during the writing of the series there would be many changes. Like, oh no, wait, actually, I don't want to go this way. I'm going to tweak this, tweak that, tweak this, tweak that, and sooner or later something is going to slip through the cracks because both a serpent ring seal of the letter and the House Damodred seal on the letter both make sense coming from Moraine because she is both those things. She is a Damodred royal, and she is also or noble, and she is also an Aes Sedai. So neither of those things seem out of place. It's just maybe like the find replace equivalent that Robert Jordan did for like, oh, where were those letters again? Didn't pick up every single instance, and
sometimes the most obvious thing could be true, and she had 2 wax blobs on it with 2 seals because she wanted to make sure that Tom recognizes it's the Demundred Aes Sedai.
Demundred?
But then in each of the 2 scenes, they only focus on one of the seals to describe it.
They're on opposite ends. They didn't see it. Like it went in one way and it came out another way. Or it's an envelope that had a blue seal, and inside the envelope was a letter that had another seal on it, like Sealception.
I'm going with Sealception.
Did you guys ever have those Hot Wheels that, like, you put them in cold water and they're one color, you put warm water? Yes,
there you go.
Color changing wax.
She wrote that letter when it was cooler. Now, because the world is so hot, it's changed. That's even better. I agree.
And it melted into a shape vaguely resembling a tree and a crown, and not a snake.
I wonder how many listeners we've lost. How many people skipped forward by now? Oh, fucking guys, shut up, guys. All right.
If they've made it this far into the episodes, they're here for the long haul.
It's your own fault. All right. Well, I don't even know where I am in my notes. Letter. Yes, Moraine. Gotcha. Okay, so then Rand leaves. Matt tells Olva, whose sneakiness needs some attention because he's standing right outside the tent and squeaks when Matt just calls to him because Matt knows he's there, to summon old Talmanes and Nalisian and Deerid. Matt tells Aviendha that while she is with the band, he's in charge, and he expects her to follow orders, and her reply is brilliant. She just goes, I know how to follow orders, battle leader. Like, she's seen him in battle. She's been in battle. She remembers her, maiden days. But she's like, I'm not getting on any fucking horse. Like, I draw the line there. Because he's thinking at that moment as well in this story. He's thinking, like, if she doesn't listen to me, I'm just gonna smack her butt and then throw her on a horse, tie her up and throw her over a horse and drag her to Salidar. And then she says right afterwards, like, you're not putting me on a horse. And he's like, oh my god, can she read my mind? It's like, no, dude. I don't know what wise ones can do. Yeah. So while they're waiting for old Talmanes and the rest of them, he's busy studying the map because it's awkward. He doesn't want to talk to her because she's just sitting at the corner very blatantly sharpening her belt knife. When the Talmanes and them do arrive, Matt says, and I quote, I'll read from the book, hey guys, not hey guys, I'm saying that. We are going to tickle some Aes Sedai under the chin, rescue a mule, and put a snip-nosed girl on the lion throne. Oh yes, that's Aviendha. Don't look at her crosswise, or she'll try and cut your throat and possibly slit her own by mistake. The woman laughed as if he had made the funniest joke in the world. She did not stop sharpening her knife, though. So yeah, typical Matt, typical Aviendha. Just brilliantness. See, Matt gets the Aiel humor. All right, back to Egwene. She is now, during this break we've had, having the shit beaten out of her in typical Aiel, Aes Sedai, Robert Jordan spanking fetish fashion. She's having a real hard time. Like, she's trying to, suck it up, but she is, as Willie would say, snot and trana. It's just snot and tears. She is crying her eyes out. She's bummed with herself that she can't take it like a real Aiel. Like, she's thinking, like, if a maiden were doing this, she wouldn't be crying and stuff. But I mean, it's pretty hardcore what's going on. The usual wise ones are there, and they've invited literally everyone who Egwene told her lie about being an Aes Sedai to. And most have been taking their turn with a belt, beating her as she lays on the floor. And some others just came for the tea, and they like lying on cushions, just watching this whole thing going on. It's nothing like a cup of tea and witnessing a good beating. But the beating just suddenly stops, which surprises Egwene.
Shame cleansing, not a beating. It's a shame cleansing.
A shame cleansing.
She's getting a honor level up.
Yes, it rises with every beating. All right. So she asks, like, she gets up and she's like, "What, is it over already?" And Sorelea tells her, like, "Look, only you know the worth of your own honor." So Egwene thinks, like, "Oh fuck," and lies down again, ready for more. She lies down on her stomach and grips Sorelea's wrinkly ankles, to brace herself for some more punishment. But Sorelea tosses down the belt and says, "This woman has no toe towards me," which is echoed by everyone else in the tent present. And they tell her, like, listen, get up and stop showing off. Or, like, get up before we start thinking you're showing off. Like, you can take so much. But they are super impressed by her Aiel art, especially Sorelia. Sorelia is, like, her new granny. Like, she's adopted in the family already. Yeah. So there's hugs and there's smiles, and as everyone leaves, because, I mean, then normally everyone would hang around for another tea party, and then, you know, part of the Aiel tradition, but Egwene's got to go. You know, she's got shit to do. She's been called back, so she says her goodbyes as well to Sorelia, and Amos and Bear, who stay behind a little bit longer, and they tell her, look, she's welcome back anytime. Of course, she's Aiel in her heart. They love her, and Sorelia even has a husband picked out for her already, which turns out to be like the son of her great son or something, because she's like 1,000 years old, I suppose. She's trying to marry Egwene into the family, it seems, and that's how we leave that chapter.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously love the affection that the Wise Ones are showing Egwene here. I'll try not to say it every time we talk about Egwene in this stretch of chapters and all the way through, but her accepting of the Aiel way and like the focus on the Aiel heart is, especially in this section, sort of like a recurring theme. It's RJ again hammering into our brains. Egwene equals Aiel. She has the heart of an Aiel. And I quickly want to read what Sorelia says to her about it. She goes, "Remember this. We are always more afraid than we wish to be, but we can always be braver than we expect. Hold on to your heart, and the Aes Sedai cannot harm what is really you, your heart. They are not nearly so far above us as we believed. May you always find water and shade, Egwene, and always remember your heart." And that is the thing that she does, right? In the tower when they're trying to beat her. Like, she's like, this is nothing. This actually gives me strength, you know? Like, she's gained honor by doing this very thing. And that's what sort of keeps her laser focused on her goals when she's captured in the White Tower. And that whole sort of becoming popular from inside is just the most delicious part of her arc.
Morris is talking about this. You've been talking about this, I think, since like the first episode we recorded.
Every episode.
Yes. How much are you going to talk about it when it's actually happening? We're going to have to dedicate like a whole podcast to just that.
Hey, careful. I might do that.
Hey, don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, it's just here we're getting all the like the pieces of the puzzle that make up that picture, right? Like it's this very important part that Sorelia, again, the most senior of Wise Ones, like you said, Joe, she wants to marry Egwene into her family. Like in the chapters leading up to this, we understand the Wise Ones have given her that, okay, she is Aiel. She looks like Aiel. People in the street think she's Aiel. She can pull off what the Aiel do, which she's going to have to.
Yeah. It's going to come in, stand her in good stead very, very soon.
How about you, Vil? Got any additions? I've got a couple notes here to rattle off.
We slammed all of the things in there. Just that mention of Aviendha and the sharpening of the knife. That was quite funny, laughing at Matt's jokes. But other than that, I think Jody did a bang-up job.
Gracias, señor.
Sure did. I liked that Matt has a complicated relationship with snakes and foxes. He is playing with Olver, and even though he knows it's an unwinnable child's game, it still makes him uneasy because of his experience with the Finns, especially, I think he says especially the snakes, which I thought was weird because it's actually the foxes that kill him. But still, I like his unease about the game. The chapter name, Courage to Strengthen, obviously comes from the Snakes and Foxes game, that little rhyme that they have to say before the game starts. It's, I think it starts with that. But it also alludes to Egwene's courage and, you know, having to strengthen herself and steel herself for her punishment that she is subjected to here. And this is an example of how Robert Jordan has fun with the chapter names. It's something I've only just started enjoying on this read through, and maybe even just very recently. Yes, he's probably been doing it all along. So I guess I'll have to go read all the other books again just to get the joy from the chapter names with their double meanings. But there's another pretty funny one later. I don't know if he actually intended this, but it's a pretty literal interpretation of the chapter name that we'll get to in this episode.
I've got a piece of advice for you. You don't have to read the books again. There's this podcast that you can go listen to.
Ooh.
Yes.
Tell me more.
It's called Blood and Ashes. These three awesome guys that just like summarize everything and just put it on the plate.
Incredible.
Just put it in your ears, wash the dishes, off you go.
I do that with our podcast.
I mentioned that because that's what Christina does.
Had a good chuckle at Dared making fun of Matt for becoming a good father and commenting on how the resemblance is uncanny when we know that Oliver is not what we would call classically handsome.
Fucking ugly, as I think what we would say.
Fugly.
He's fugly.
Rand makes mention here that Dragonsworn are turning to bandits and that he has heard some rumors, and I wondered if maybe it was a Dragonsworn / bandit group that murdered the Tinkers further north when Matt was busy traveling south, but I don't know if the Dragonsworn would really be involved with that because they're more south in sort of Altara and moving south from Gildan, right? Like that's where Massima was when we last saw him, and I think they're moving sort of south. That's why Niall is also sending Jacob Carradine to Altara to go pose as Dragonsworn as well and cause even more chaos. But the fact that Rand mentions he's heard rumors sort of triggered that thought, because remember that guy scrawled on the bottom of that wagon, "Tell the Dragon Reborn." Yeah. Maybe someone found them and used it to make its way back to, like, people are getting killed in the countryside.
That's
tenuous.
Funny how that information spreads so quickly, but the Aes Sedai can't send messages to each other months before the Handmaiden knows.
Damane, Draken, no. And that's when they hear months later.
Exactly. And they still don't believe it. That's been happening for like 4 books.
A year.
Yeah.
I like Aviendha calling Matt battle leader, because we know that specifically among the Aiel, Matt has earned massive G for killing Couladin specifically, but also the story of him leading that small team against Shido, who are still Aiel, so the Aiel have to respect what Matt managed to accomplish with these Wetlander soldiers against Aiel, so they go, okay, no, he does know what he's doing, so he's got a legitimate reputation as a respectable battle leader. It's just cool to hear that coming out of someone we love, like Aviendha's mouth. What else? No, that was it. The rest of the stuff is just gushing over Egwene, but we don't need to keep going down that path.
Morris loves Egwene.
I do love her.
Right.
All right, let's soldier on then. Chapter 34 is called Journey to Salidar. Take us to Salidar, Willie.
No, not Willie. Bella. Bella's going to take Egwene to Salidar. All right, the point of view of Egwene, and we are in Carrion still, and we're going to make our way to Salidar. Egwene is dressed and she's gotten herself nice and ready now. She channels flows of spirit just so and steps into the dream. She then decides that, since I'm here, I can have and manifest basically anything I need. So she dreams herself a Bella-sized horse with Bella looks.
Bella's eyes.
With Bella's liquid dark eyes. And she hops on and makes her saddle nice and comfy for her sore rump. And proceeds to take steps that equal miles, and it's a blur, and it's much like we've traveled with Perrin. We've gone through this mechanism, and she is traveling, eventually slowing down to navigate herself all the way to Salidar, where she then greets Bella and steps out of the dream and finds the nearest person to take her to Sheriam. The nearest person wasn't quite happy about that, muttering under breath about it. I can't remember her name now.
Nildra.
Mildra. Nildra hears you. Nildra don't care.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. That's a song everyone knows.
No, it reminds me of the Simpsons groundskeeper Willie. Willie, yes, yeah. Willie don't care. All right, where were we? She is then taken to the one of the rooms or houses in Salidar, where she is um, walks into the room to find all the Aes Sedai that were present in the dream to be there, and they are just over the moon that it happened so quickly. And she needs to tell them everything. And is there any ill effects? And as much as it's about her being summoned, it's also you've done this whole new thing, so we don't want to learn about it. That goes down to the point where they want to prod and heal, to even asking if she needs healing. And she knows if they're going to start delving her, they're going to feel or see this massive beating that she's taken. And she doesn't want it healed because that healing would again shame her, I suppose, now that she's living Giato. So that would be cheating. So no. And then
Egwene is Aiel now.
Yeah, then they decide to move on with a matter of business of her summons, and that's when they drop the mic and tell her that they mean to raise her to the Amyrlin seat. And everyone goes quiet. The end. Quick chapter.
All right. Thanks for coming, everyone.
I wonder how much of a surprise that is to first-time readers. I mean, I've been waxing lyrical about Egwene's stint as Amyrlin seat for months and months, years now. And I wonder how much of a surprise that line is at the end of that chapter, because it certainly is to Egwene, right? Like, she thinks she's just going back. But us knowing it, like, we see all the hints. We see what Swan is doing and the influence that she's trying to exert on those. Earlier, when the Aes Sedai are saying they're not going to move because they're waiting for that obstinate child, the thing that Nynaeve overhears, that's Egwene. Like, the hints are all there. And this is what makes the reread so good, right? Like, now we've reread it and we can spot all those little bits and pieces and we're like, oh, yes, of course it means Egwene. But I forget that when you're reading it the first time, this might still be a massive shock. I'm pretty sure it was for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't particularly remember it like a standout moment where you go, look, you read Dumas Wells for the first time and you take a breather. Like, oh, okay, whoa.
To go lie down.
Go lie down.
Stand with a blank expression staring into the sunset.
And try to channel.
Meat grinders channeling. Where was I going with this? Oh, yes.
I don't know, man.
No, it is such a big moment because everything is as well set up as a first-time reader, and how I would feel it is that she's set up to be punished. Like, okay, cool, we've got you, and this is what it is.
You've been posing as a green sister, or you have no idea how many pots we can dirty for you to scrub.
Yeah.
Oh, damn pots.
Moritz, don't say stuff like that.
Don't worry, she's Amyrlin now. Her pot scrubbing is thing of the past.
Oh, in this chapter, I think it is. Maybe not this chapter. I think it's the next one. We'll get to it, where she asks after Elayne and Nynaeve, and they're like, other than having problems and running into pots. Poor bastards.
Yeah. This chapter starts with Egwene saying to herself, "Courage, heart of an Aiel." Like, it's very much beaten into our brains by both RJ and myself. Had a chuckle again at Egwene still just referring to Swan as the woman with Swan's name.
Yeah.
Who's also there in the room. What else? Egwene, I don't know if you said it explicitly, Vil, but in Tel'aran'rhiod, Egwene actually makes the pain of her beating go away. And when she steps out of Tel'aran'rhiod, it all comes back again. And she's like, oh! Yeah. Which is... It's a scene that a listener had written in about to let us know that when we were speculating about whether Rand turning into a Trolloc in Tel'aran'rhiod in his fight with Ravin would remain in place if he had to step out of Tel'aran'rhiod again, which we know now and were told then is not the case because the effects are not permanent. Nildra, the old maid that Egwene runs into and who takes it to Sheriam and the rest of the Aes Sedai, is an old woman. And when Egwene later opens the novice books to just say anyone that wants to try and become a novice can, regardless of age, Nildra steps forward and she says she wants to be tested. So I get the sense that all these years she's been sort of grumbling under her breath, but she's been harboring this like secret wish to actually also be an Aes Sedai. So I don't know definitively what the answer is, but I really hope that she did actually learn how to channel, that she could channel.
I hope so.
Anything else? Because I got one more way out thing.
All right, way out us.
When Egwene is traveling through Tel'aran'rhiod, she goes through a couple of towns and stuff, and she mentions that when she's traveling, she can quite clearly read the signs, that Tel'aran'rhiod makes it easy for her to read the signs at a distance, maybe because of the light and stuff. I can't remember exactly what her rationale is, but she says that. And immediately my brain went, hang on, you can't read in your dreams, can you? Because years and years ago, I watched an episode of the Batman animated cartoon where Batman himself was trapped in a dream, and the way that he figures out he's in a dream is he opens up a newspaper and all the characters are all jumbled around. They don't even look like letters. They're just like these weird things. And he goes, aha, this must be a dream, because dreaming and reading happen in two different hemispheres of your brain. That cartoon shaped my opinion and quote-unquote knowledge of the topic since I was in high school. So I went just to go check, is that true? Is that a fallacy? And it turns out it's true for most people. There are exceptions, but for a lot of people, they can't read in their dreams because of that sort of the centers, maybe not as clear as left and right side, but the centers of your brain that process reading and language are different from the ones that produce the dreams. Except some people that apparently spend a lot of time thinking about words, poets, writers, that type of person can reportedly read in their dreams. And then on the flip side of the coin, some people even have difficulty understanding words. So when they're communicating with another person in their dream, it's often related as or relayed as telepathy or just understanding their intent, not actually hearing a word and turning it into meaning. Like language itself is a challenge for apparently the vast majority of people. So
now I'm going to have
being
to,
a dreamer.
Yeah, now I'm going to have to try and read in my dreams.
Convinced that I've read, like, I mean, the road signs, I mean, you have dreams of going places. Pretty certain there's been...
You do, but you also just like, I know certainly for me, a lot of times I just know things. Like I understand, like I could be in a scene and know what has happened or understand what people's intentions or feelings or emotions are in that specific scene. But I don't know if I can't definitively say that I haven't read in my dreams, but I certainly can't remember any specific time that I have read or understood words.
What was that movie about lucid dreaming by Richard Linklater? It was like filmed and then animated.
Man, I've watched it a bunch.
I mean, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Waking Life.
Waking Life. Keanu Reeves is in it.
No. That was
no.
Yeah, same style, same director. That was a movie about Philip
You
K.
thinking,
Dick.
Villy, of a movie called oh gosh, Jody, now
Philip
just
K.
as you
Dick,
said Philip K. Dick, the name of the movie went out of my head.
Yeah. Yeah, that movie was about
Dream
drugs.
of Electric Sheep.
Like all Philip K. Dick books.
It was.
Yes,
all about drugs.
But those two movies,
Yeah.
use it's A Scanner Darkly is the movie.
Scanner Darkly, that's right.
The technique of painting over the actual film cells is called rotoscoping. And yes, both those movies used rotoscoping.
That Waking Life movie, I watched that also like around university days. I think I watched it in the flat that we used to share, and like I've watched it a bunch of times as well. That's really like shaped my life at that early 20s, like blew my mind.
yes. A lot of cool conversations in there. There's a cool scene with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy playing the characters from Before Midnight.
Yes.
When they're just lying in bed and they're having like this the cool conversation. And then there's also like what's the crazy conspiracy theorist in the US? What's his name?
The guy that was talking about that school shooting and got all the money taken away from him.
That was saying
sued and
Sandy Hook was staged.
Alan Jones. something like that.
Jones. Alex Jones.
Alex Jones,
something
yes.
like that.
He's also in Waking Life. He's the guy that's driving in the car, shouting through the megaphone, and he's just getting angrier and redder, and his face goes redder and redder, like they're painted redder and redder.
Yeah, that's a trippy movie. Listen, listeners, if you haven't watched that film, go watch it. Talk about Tell Adriad. Very topical.
Yeah, there's some very, very much so. Anyway, we digress.
Yes,
it's not a movie podcast.
We did forget something. Sorry, I said we.
What did we forget?
Not my job to summarize this chapter. Egwene does find out that Swan is stilled, is healed, is all of that. And it's like
she's Swan.
It's a sacrifice. I didn't know it.
Wow, Discord did not like the pitch at which you were speaking about. It just went really weird on my side.
My side too. I'll have to listen to the recording to find out what Billy said there.
All right, before we break Discord, let's move on to the next chapter.
Oh.
That chapter is called, well, first it is chapter 35, and it is called In the Hall of the Sitters. What happens in the hall, Jody?
Some stuff. It's not important. Look,
just more nudity.
Yes, I think it's just toplessness. It's not the usual Robert Jordan full nudity.
Full frontal.
Jesus words. So yes, it's Egwene. Egwene's just she's had that bomb dropped on her. Like, hey, yeah, you're being raised to the amulet, by the way. And she's like, the who, the what now? What's going? The who? What? She's like, no. But they are dead serious. She thinks it's a joke. Just like she can't accept it. Everyone is looking at her with like those Aes Sedai faces, that resting Aes Sedai face. It's very similar to the resting Wise One face. You may remember it, except for Swan, who's Swan now, who is standing in the corner with a sneaky smile on her face, all super chuffed with herself. Like at first, Egwene looks at her and she goes, "Is that a smile on her face, or is she just?" Like, that's just the curve of her mouth. And then later on, she looks at her again. She goes, nah, that bitch is smiling. She's chuffed.
And that means trouble.
Yeah. You don't want a smiling Aes Sedai. That's the last thing on earth you need.
If Swan Sancha is smiling,
you be
worried.
So, of course, she continues the protest. Like, obviously, like you would think as well. Like, she's not even an Aes Sedai. How can she be the Amaryllis seat? She's still an accepted. But they've studied the text and they found a ridiculous loophole that no sane person would accept. But as Willie likes to point out many times, this is just fantasy. Just go with it. Don't question it too much.
Exactly.
Nowhere in the holy texts does it say that the Amyrlin must be Aes Sedai. It's just like kind of assumed by the writers that people would assume that it would be an Aes Sedai. So they never actually state the words Aes Sedai. They just say the woman who comes and the woman and whatever. So they look, that's what it is. There's a whole argument there. I'm going to summarize this chapter super quick because it's mostly ceremony. And then there's an argument that's about 2 pages between a brown and a white talking about logic and history. So yeah, that was fun. Trying to explain this decision. Also, it's all pointless. This is a moot point because she can't refuse a summons. Like a summons to trial, you cannot refuse a summons to become Amyrlin's seat. So hard lines, tough cookies. So they get to work prepping her and themselves for the ceremony. There's an old lady there, Chessa, is it? Who becomes her personal maid?
Chessa.
I want to say
her
Chessa.
Maid, yeah.
Classic old Chessa. She's like, hey, they tell her like, hey, wake up, Chessa. Go get this woman a dress. So they go searching for dresses. Everybody's getting changed. They're teaching her lines because she has to go through this whole ceremony and repeat all these lines in a specific order and whatnot. And they keep on repeating it. And she thinks to herself like, man, if these were wise ones, they would just say it once. And God help you if you forget it after they've told you once, because once is enough. So she's already trained to remember everything the first time. So she's already got it, but they keep going over and she's like, yeah, I got it. So they're going through the whole literal dress rehearsal and everybody's ready. Lines are learnt. Everyone's dressed up for the occasion. So off they go to the little tower. It's like the middle of the night, if I remember correctly. The streets are pretty much deserted. Yeah. And off they go. They're going to get this shit done as fast as possible. There's a whole ceremony, like I said, that I won't repeat, but it's very poignant and everyone should go read it. You probably have already read it if you're listening to this, but needless to say, as with any Aes Sedai ceremony, like we pointed out, there's some nudity involved. They got to make sure that everyone there is a woman. So they just get topless and say, all right, everyone there is, and there's like another Aes Sedai that walks around checking everybody. All right, it's only women here. It's like, even though Halima is in camp and is technically not a woman, so somebody could have gotten around it if they wanted to, but there you go. It's not important. They're chanting, they're repeating things, and Egwene goes around washing everyone's feet, basically. So there's some reluctance, of course, from Romanda and Elayne, both of whom thought that they should be Amyrlin. And this comes up in later chapters. There's a whole thing about this as well. They are not happy, but they capitulate in the end because they've just, this is the hand that's been dealt, and they've weighed the pros and cons, and this is the decision they come to, as with everyone else. So there we have it.
What we see in the ceremony is that there is a chance of the person petitioning to become the Amyrlin seat could be denied.
Yes.
And the consequences for that are severe. And Elayne knows that Romanda and her followers would prevent her from becoming Amyrlin seat. And Romanda knows that Elayne and her followers would prevent. So they know that they're sort of locked in the stalemate. So neither one of them actually has an opportunity to become Amyrlin. So this is the next best thing. Someone they can control, they'll prop up as an Amyrlin and then try and influence her.
Well, they got to get in line.
Just a correction.
The people who want to control her.
That they think they can control.
Yeah. Again, our knowledge of the situation allows us to know that. But yeah, like you can say, new readers reading this, thinking like, oh, she's in so much trouble now. What? She's now an Aes Sedai. All these people are going to manipulate her. Nah, don't worry about it. It's all good. So yeah, right. We have it. Egwene Elvir.
I think even on a first read, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So I want to say this line. It's important. Everyone keeps interrupting me. Egwene Elvir, the Watcher of the Seals, the Flame of Tarvalon, the Amyrlin seat. There you go. I've said my line. So the sitters line up to pledge to serve her, and when all of that's done, some of them leave pretty quickly, all in a huff. Romanda, Elayne in particular, and their followers. Then Morel and Sheriam and Carlinia stay behind to give her some more vital info on the state of affairs in Salidar. Bring her up to speed on like all the shit and all the plans that they got going on and whatnot. Because traditionally, it would be a night of contemplation and prayer for the new Amyrlin, but it's like, there's no time for that. We've got shit to cover. And that's how that chapter ends.
Sure. Nice.
Bam.
Huge.
Yeah. Like I said, there was a lot more detail. There's a lot about that ceremony, but you don't need to know it.
Yeah. What do you got, Vil? What do you want to contribute there?
It's not really much to contribute. They show some breasts to make sure that they're a woman. Typical.
Covered that.
RJ.
Yeah. It used to be, apparently, the ceremony used to be they have to be completely naked, but in recent years, it's only been, it's just ceremonial. It's not a practical test to make sure that everyone is a woman.
What do they call it? Clad in the light.
Clad in the light. I do like that how Egwene quickly calls them daughters, like immediately after. Like, she's just like, I'm your boss now. Click, click.
You guys are in trouble.
Yeah. Egwene notices that Swan has a faint smile. No one else does, but Egwene, being the sharp cookie that she is, picks up on it. And obviously we know that's because Swan's whole plan of getting Egwene set up as Amyrlin is playing out exactly as she had planned. We'll find out in chapters pretty soon that even Swan is a bit taken aback at like how resolute and headstrong Egwene can be, and she sort of has a wry chuckle about it, and it's such a cool setup. I'm actually looking forward to reading about the interactions between Egwene, who we know is stubborn and has her own ideas, and her interactions with Swan, who is beyond stubborn, right? And we've been told many, many, many times how like headstrong and forceful she can be. So I'm looking forward to those interactions. What else? Sheriam, again, very, very motherly. Like arm around her shoulders and saying, "Don't worry, we'll guide you." Obviously, guide in inverted commas, right? Like, we will control you. I mean, guide you. Sorry. But yeah, just Sheriam again acting not at all as you would expect a Black Arger sister to act.
Or
what did you want to
exactly
say,
like
Ledger?
you would expect a Black Archer sister to behave. Like she's trying to make her at ease, and I mean, what's the goal? They want control of the tower.
She's
So
Sheriam's probably the best at being Black Archer because she's the least suspicious. Like Galena and Leandrin are obviously Black Archer from day one.
I mean,
So, yeah,
Galena, Leandrin, Alviarin, all of them are in typical RJ fashion signposted bad guys, like comic book villains, right?
Yeah.
And Sheriam, not at all. And I mean, for that matter, neither is Varen. Although Varen is a bit more vague. Varen, you never quite know, even when you just think she's a brown, you don't quite know where she stands because she is so aloof. But then every now and then you catch her with a knowing look in her eye. And she's obviously putting on an act.
What I was going to say is that you were looking forward to these chapters. They are very looker forwardable because that's a
looker forwardable.
They're looker forwardable because I could not put the book down. I'm already on chapter 50 or something. Because once you read that the Amelin is raised and you see all these chapter names, you're like, oh, I can't stop now, and then it's like, oh, what is she going to do with like Elayne and Nynaeve? She has to see them. Oh, and Matt's coming. Oh, and then I got to read about Matt. It's non-stop. So from now to the end of the book, it's just you won't put it down.
Amazing. Super, super excited. I'll tell you who was not excited is the other Aes Sedai that brought Egwene in for putting forward as Amyrlin Seat, those that pledged for her. Sheriam explains that if Egwene was not accepted as Amyrlin Seat, they very likely would all have been exiled. Egwene would probably remain accepted, but those who pledged for her would be exiled, and maybe even the other three that weren't even there, Anaya and Morvrin or whoever of the six was not actually present in the room, might even have been exiled as well, because the Hall, above all else, seeks harmony, and those people would represent disharmony, so they would have to GTFO.
So the the broken tower, the rebels in Salidar would be causing disharmony. That's those threefold. There's two towers at the moment, people. If your thing is harmony, stop this shit. So contradicting Aes Sedai behaviors. What a surprise!
Yeah, weird. Hey. Okay, that was a short one, just the ceremony. Egwene is now officially the Amyrlin Seat, which brings us to chapter 36 called The Amyrlin is Raised. How is she raised, Vil?
With the one power.
With flows of air.
They were all standing there in the corners, like hands in the air, channeling. And she going up in the air, and there's like halos and peacocks making big figures.
Why don't you set the scene for us? What transpires here?
I will set the scene.
Doves flying in the background, rainbows.
Egwene is in Salidar. Obviously, I like to start off firstly by saying who we're talking about and where we're at. But I think
that's
we
a good
start.
Are you reminding yourself?
I'm reminding myself. It is the morning after, and the Amyrlin has been raised in the ceremony, and now they're going to do the physical raising of her. She... as this has all happened now overnight, they've already sent out with what I would assume and hopefully as riders messages of them having elected not pigeons. We have learned pigeons as crows. Maybe they should just get into the crow network. That seems to be more
Dark One's own spies.
Reliable. Yeah. At least they arrive.
This seems like a trustworthy one.
Yes.
All right. Now, she is being made aware that Gareth Bryn is there. He's got an army that's also ready to move. There is some urgency around everything that needs to happen. But first, they need to get this little bit of formality out the way. And she is basically going to be introduced by reading a prepared speech that they gave to her the night before already. Now, the prepared speech, all of the sisters had a hand in. But Egwene decided that she's going to do a little bit of editing. And she tested the water with how harsh the language is towards what Elijah has done and what needs to be done to address it. And then she just decides to lob in a whole paragraph and raises 4 sisters to the shoal, just like that. So we have Nynaeve, Elayne, Theodrin, and Faolain, our favorite, race to the shore. And Egwene does this and explains a little bit later to them that it's all under the cover to keep the happenings consistent. Like they raise someone that's not Aes Sedai to the seats, so just a little bit of consistency in decision making, I suppose, because
so that she doesn't stick out so much.
That who doesn't stick out?
Egwene in her raising.
She's been raised to Amyrlin without being Aes Sedai, but now by being Amyrlin, she is Aes Sedai. That's another thing they explained to her in the previous chapter. Is yes, it doesn't say that you need to be Aes Sedai to be raised, but once you are raised, you are Aes Sedai. So Egwene is now raising the others as well, so that she's not the only one and sticking out like a sore thumb.
Oh, that's true. Because the end of my chapter, when she's sitting on the chair, someone Aes Sedai takes her ring off her left hand and puts it on her right hand. So
right hand.
Yeah.
That's all you need. That's it.
100%. Now, we do, and that was a very loud now. Sorry for that. It being now a celebration, it announces public holiday, feast day. Shirts are being torn off in the back of the crowd by men already. It's already being flung. You can hear the popping of corks and the opening of vats, and the drink will flow because, as we know, it's hot as everyone needs a little bit of beer. Egwene is not happy about her sweating. She's still sweating. Maybe she'll learn, or they'll be nice enough to teach her how to control her perspiration.
You're going to have to.
Now, Egwene has also basically picked up now through all of this one evening that these girls are going to try, or women are going to try to control her. And she is not going to play fiddle. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of that. After this ceremony has passed now, Egwene is taken to what is her study, and it's very clear that they're not intending, there's no reports for her to read. There's basically a bare table in a shitty room with unmatching things, and they just like, cool, you sit down, we're going to tell you how it's going to be. And she's like, well, firstly, won't you sisters excuse me? I'd like to see Nynaeve and Elayne. And then we've got the big reunion. Egwene has her friendly meetup. She shares the news that Rand intends to give the Lion Throne to Elayne. That goes down fantastically.
Big mistake.
Because it's his to give to her. He had just gone and collected it for her. And he's, I'm giving you this now. Elayne has a little bit of a blow up about that. Rand, you foolish fool. And I think that's pretty much at the end of their catch up. That's the end of the chapter. And we have a raised Amyrlin.
Literally and figuratively. This is the chapter title I was talking about before. It's the one that made me click like, hang on. Do these chapter titles have double meanings? At the last third of book 6. Hang on. There's something going on here. But yeah, I'm going to keep an eye out for them now. Joe, you got anything to add?
No, I'm just wondering if you read that passage where you see that guy in the background doing a keg stand. No?
Yes.
You saw that one, yeah.
That happens. That's
he
the
was
same
the guy
guy
with no
that threw
shirt
his
on.
T-shirt off. Yep.
Ah, that's the same guy. All right.
He generally goes by the word Baparakas Mezulan. He's a carouser.
For our listeners, that is Billy's name of his Dungeons and Dragons rogue in our D&D game, who is an alcoholic and a carouser. Right. What else then? Apart from the keg stands, do you guys also feel like we read about Chessa a lot? When I read her name, I was like, oh, that's cool. Hello, Chessa. Welcome.
Yeah.
I think she helps Egwene feel comfortable in her role. I think that is basically what her role is, like physically and figuratively.
Yeah.
She's always tending to her and stuff. But she's a comfort, like I think she confides in her.
You've got more gays that's still rolling with Lenny.
Yes,
You've got
that was about what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got Chesa that's now with Egwene. You've got what's the old man that's looking after Matt?
Oh.
Gosh, I forget his name.
Oh shit! Call back for you.
Warren
Nerim.
No callback. Erase that.
But he's Talmanis' man. He's not.
No, it's given to Matt. So he's Matt's man.
Is loaned to Matt.
It's just given. Like a thing.
He's the property of Matt now. So everyone has their little.
And Lenny is not also. She's like she was more like a nurse maid, right? Like she looked after the kids. She was not a lady's maid who sort of dresses them and that sort of thing. Not a lady in waiting. Willie, you mentioned the study with nothing on the desk, no reports, and also no pen and paper for her to write anything. Like she literally can't put like pen to paper. But also the sisters actually, when Egwene is trying to tell them what she thinks Rand is up to, like she's just come from like spending many months in the presence of the Dragon Reborn in the time leading up to the final battle, and he's busy manipulating and maneuvering armies across the world. He has plans and stuff, and she's trying to tell them what she thinks he's doing. And they're going, no, that's not important. We'll get to that. Here's what we need you to know. And it's just like this, again, crystal clear picture of like, okay, cool. This is what the Aes Sedai think is going to be the way that they work together, right? Like they get to quote unquote guide her. Ramonda is trying to influence Egwene. Elayne obviously is. There's a lot of that specific stuff in the very next chapter. The only chapter that I've read ahead. And then there's Swan with her own designs and Halima lurking in the background, who's also going to be trying to influence Egwene later. So her Two Rivers stubbornness is going to come in handy.
Yeah, they obviously have also been lying. They found the tree. They're lying under the Chora tree back in the tower somewhere there because they think they can control this Two Rivers woman.
They all think they can control Two Rivers men, women, and they're all just wrong.
Just so wrong. Could not be further from the actual case. What else? This is where I learned a new word. Slugabed. Shrug. Never used it before, but I will try and sneak it into conversation now. Yeah. Watch the space.
Just do it in your private life as well. You tell your kids are lying around watching TV, stop being such slugabeds. Go mow the lawn or something,
Pip, you're 7 now. Go mow the lawn. What else? Egwene assumes that the not sweating thing comes from working with the power for a long time. So I wonder how long it's going to take Swan, who's ostensibly going to be teaching Egwene about the etiquette of being an Amyrlin, how if she teaches her the trick or not. So
immediately.
Keep an eye out. I love the fact that Egwene just immediately took a chance and changed the speech right off the bat, showing her independence. She's already off script. It's the first speech she's making in front of the rest of Salidar. And she's already gone, also, these girls are now Aes Sedai, and I'm going to rip this whole other part out. I'm not even going to say that. That's redundant. And then later when the other Aes Sedai come to confront her about it, she's like, yeah, no, I think this is better, right? Yeah, okay, cool. Moving along. And you can almost see on their faces like it's starting to dawn on them like, oh, shit, what have we done here?
Mm-hmm.
I am pretty sure, set up for a callback and a pin at the same time, that between Swan and Egwene, I can't remember whose idea it was, but between them, they cook up this plan for declaring war on the White Tower using Brian's army and like officially declaring a state of war, which gives the Amyrlin additional powers over the Hall.
Yeah,
you are right.
Answerable to them. And they do that thing, and then Egwene is just straight up in charge, and the Hall is a non-issue, or at least much depleted issue, which is also genius. And I want to say, this is my bias, my Egwene bias coming in. I want to say it was Egwene's idea, and she surprises Swan with it, but let's see.
I think you were right on all of your points. It's a tentative pin. It's nothing we need to address just yet. But I think that does happen. But whose idea it was, I'm not.
We'll remember this conversation when it comes to light.
Well, luckily we're recording it. Listeners, if we don't mention it later on, remind us that we spoke about it in this episode.
You can leave us a voice note on our website. Hey, talk about that thing.
Has anybody left a voice note, Moritz?
Only me when I tested the functionality.
Everyone else hates voice notes as much as I do. Great.
Kerry sends me voice notes, but on WhatsApp. And then, I can't download them like I can from our website. If you go to our website, on the homepage, right at the bottom, there's a button you click and you can just talk for 90 seconds. And if it's cool, if it's a question or like a clarification or something, instead of me reading it out in my boring old voice, we can play your voice notes. So
please, give us a bit of reprieve. Callbacks.
Yeah.
Yes, people, please.
give the guys a break. In this conversation between Egwene and Nynaeve and Elayne, she tells them not to call her mother in private. And Jacob had actually written in about this. He didn't send a voice note, but he wrote in to say he was enjoying seeing the growth of Egwene, even as Amyrlin, in the coming chapters, because here she's saying, okay, just call me mother in private, and later she berates the two of them for not giving her the proper respect that she is due as Amyrlin's seat. So Egwene, even from here forward, it's not like she's arrived and now she's the fully matured Amyrlin that we love. She's going to grow into it, and very quickly, so let's keep an eye out for that. And then I've got one more last note. All the women agree Rand needs a woman's hand to guide him. Of course they do. So
really?
Perfectly predictable. And I mean, at least they're consistent, right? Like at least Robert Jordan picked these personality traits for them. And then what I laughed and I chuckled about is that Elayne suggests maybe Min should do it. Like Min is a good candidate. And she's actually spot on, because that is exactly what happens. Min does attach herself to Rand, and she stays by his side. She's the only one that actually sticks with him physically throughout the story, so that she can help, like temper that that madness and the anger and stuff that he's showing. Like she does actually present a stabilizing hand and a sort of like a place of refuge for him.
She becomes really handy when Cadsuane arrives, because she's like a buffer between Cadsuane aggression and Rand's fight back towards that. And doesn't Rand attack her at one point? He loses his mind, almost kills her. Min?
When that all plays out when Semirog's on the scene.
Yeah.
When they capture Semirog and she compels Rand to do it or something like that, and Rand is strangling her, or Rand is he's on the male Adam.
That's right.
And she's forcing him to do it, and Rand channels the true power to break the Adam. He breaks out of that thing because he channels the Dark One's power.
Rad. So much cool stuff.
Days. Yes. We haven't seen it in a while, but so much cool stuff still coming.
Yeah. And one more cool thing.
Okay. Yes.
A peacock in Spanish, directly translated, is a royal turkey, which I've always thought is the funniest shit I've ever heard in my life. It's un pavo real.
Pavo real.
If you think about it, it's like the king of turkeys with all its colors and tail and stuff.
I mean, honestly,
that's amazing.
It makes more sense than peacock.
It does. Always, whenever I see it,
as royal turkeys from now.
Royal turkey
it's like
is
the king
fantastic.
of the turkeys. Yeah, I know. I've always thought that's great. Like Spanish has some amazing stuff, and one of them is the royal turkey.
I shit on your whatsoever. I shit on the milk.
I shit on God.
I shit on this royal turkey.
Yeah. Shit on the milk is another one. Don't shit on the milk, guys. Yeah.
Oh, far out, man. That plays.
All right. Well, on that note, I am done with chapter 36. If you guys did not have anything else to add, he says, judging their body language. No, neither seems to want to add anything. Then let's move on to favorite moments. Why don't you tell us your favorite moment, Willie?
I have a favorite moment, and it is where Matt and Alba is playing Snakes and Foxes. And Matt still, despite knowing the game is an unbeatable game and you're always going to lose it, he still plays it with Alba, who has got that childlike optimism that he will one day win the game, and even
Yes.
gets
This
Matt
time,
to
Matt, I can feel
think
it.
like, okay, maybe, just maybe,
Yeah.
just maybe my luck. But he doesn't let Oliver. He doesn't throw the dice. Matt
No.
never lets throw the dice. Since he's given that dice cup to Oliver, it's like, oh no, wait, who made the dice for Oliver? Was it Oliver's dad or Matt? Can't remember.
Oh, there's another pin.
No, it was someone made him. They mention it. Yeah. There's because they talk about when the dice fall, it's 3 triangles and 3 sinewy lines, so 3 snakes. So there's 6 dice in the cup, and
there's a callback for you, Willie. Who made the dice?
As soon as we finish recording, go and look it up. Otherwise, you're going to forget.
Go do it right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that is a great bit of Matt being a father or playing a father role
straight up
to Oliver, who is already a little Matt, as we know, and we saw the similarities with having a fossil in his bag and this and that, and Matt knowing like, oh yeah, I used to have this as well. So it's a pretty cool, like, I mean, there's so much coolness that happens around in this chapters, and I'd give you guys all the glory with the raising of Egwene and all of that, but I really liked the interaction between Matt and Oliver in that whole Matt section, whether it is Oliver hiding outside but Matt being aware. Like, it's just he's there doing what he needs to do. Yeah, it's awesome.
Oliver's a cool kid.
I remember reading, I can't remember which of the books it was, but one of them starts with like, isn't Matt desperately searching for Oliver after a building collapses or something along those lines? And I remember being somewhat, I could be inceptioning ideas into your heads here, like that this might not have happened. But I remember, correctly or incorrectly, being somewhat put out by how obsessed Matt was with Oliver. Now, as a parent, and seeing how early Matt is already assuming the parental role here, I get it. Crystal clear. Obviously he did. Yeah. So I also enjoy their interactions, Will, and I do definitely look at them differently now. I mean, even the last time I read the books, not even the first time, but the last time I read them, I wasn't a parent. So big difference. How about you, Joe?
My favorite moment takes place in that exact same tent, just moments later. And that line that I quoted, that phrase, that passage that I quoted earlier about Aviendha.
How Matt boils down what
this is what we're going to do, guys.
It's the most move a mule.
Matt thing ever put on paper, I think.
It's going to tickle some Aes Sedai under the chin and put a snip-nosed girl on the throne and move a mule. Is Egwene like the mule because she's so stubborn?
No, Nynaeve.
Is that Nynaeve?
That's Nynaeve.
For
sure.
I've still got it open. Yeah. Tickle some. Rescue a mule and put a snip-nosed girl on the lion throne. Like, oh yeah, and that's Aviendha, and she'll slit your throat if you look at her crossways, and probably end up cutting herself.
Throat in the process. Yeah.
It's like,
and then just to put the cherry on top of everything, Aviendha finds it hilarious and laughs uproariously while still sharpening a knife.
It's just like a condensation, like everything like boiled down, madness and Aielness together.
Distilled,
Wonderful.
I mean, Willie, you said that you'll leave all the other stuff to us, but it's not uncommon for us to choose the one Matt scene as the favorite moment. Right? Matt leans heavily in the favorite moment direction. He lends himself to it very easily.
Is yours also Matt, Moritz?
I was going to say, that said, mine is not Matt related.
Ooh.
Mine is, now this is going to come as a shock, guys, so make sure you're sitting comfortably. It's an Egwene moment, okay? It features Romanda.
I was just thinking you were maybe going to go for Eamon Valda or...
No.
One of those guys.
It is Egwene's response to Romanda. So, like, after she does the speech, and Romanda and Elayne and all the other Aes Sedai are sort of crowding around her, and they're saying, "Oh, you did change the speech there," blah blah blah. So Egwene goes to them. "Oh, I will consult in the future," Egwene told them earnestly. "But it did seem the right thing to do. Now, please, would you excuse me now? I really do need to speak with the keeper." They practically quivered. Their curtsies were slight, their parting words perfectly correct so far as the words went, but muttered in Romanda's case and in Elaine's sharp enough to cut. And then Sheriam goes on to say, you handled that well. But it's just like, immediately, Romanda, Elayne, yeah, no, you are dismissed. Yes, I changed the speech, but you can now go. I must speak with the keeper. Thank you very much. And then, like, just they can't say anything about it. And they're realizing, fuck, what have we done?
Quivering.
Love that.
Yeah.
Some honorable mentions. Egwene dumping the sea folk into the river. Reckless, but funny.
Indeed.
Reckless indeed.
Yes.
Funny.
She, I'm pretty sure, well, I found it funny. I'm pretty sure she shields them and she lifts them, right? So she's got multiple shields and she's lifting multiple people. And I think she even thinks to herself, like, this is maybe the extent of what I actually can do, but I'm going to do this
4 flows that she's doing it. Just random
2 shields
memory.
And 2.
Yeah.
Drops them in the river. And my other one was Aviendha laughing at Matt's joke in that whole scene as well, Joe. It's some good shit.
Indeed.
Michael Murphy wrote in with a favorite moment and some honorable mentions. So Michael, he says his favorite moment is Egwene regaining her honor and facing her toe towards the Wise Ones. He says, as you've mentioned, she has become full Aiel, and I'm here for it. Yes. Michael, thanks for noting that I have mentioned it a handful of times. And then Michael's honorable mentions are summoning Bella to travel the world of dreams, and then the sitters thinking that they installed a meek accepted as Amelin, but they're in for a world of hurt. And then it was Michael that said it's interesting to see how much growth Egwene goes through between these chapters and the end of the book, when she tells Elayne and Nynaeve that she needs them to see her as her, not as the Amelin, so she can remain sane, and then later scolds Nynaeve for not treating her as the Amelin, and she insists that she treats her as such. Just cool to see her growth. And then Michael had a dishonorable mention. That Egwene just learns traveling by herself in her tent one random evening.
I had that same thought.
I think that, Rand tried to teach her how to do it, right? Like he explained the theory to her, and I'm pretty sure she recalls that same theory and it works. Now, in the very next chapter, and I keep doing this because it's the one chapter that I've read ahead, but it is pertinent to this exact point. When they talk to Moghedien about traveling and she explains what she did with Tel'aran'rhiod, Moghedien goes, no, if you try that with real world capital T traveling, you will get sucked into somewhere, maybe the space between the threads of the pattern. Like it is dangerous. You can't do it like that. You actually have to imagine the two places are the same place or something along those lines. And then Egwene goes, oh, like this. Zhwing! And then there's a gateway. Like she just immediately does it. And Nynaeve and Elayne are like, what the fuck? How did you do it? And Moghedien is shocked when she sees it. She can't believe that she got it so quickly. But the traveling in the flesh into Tel'aran'rhiod is something that I think she comes to using Rand's methodology, at least his logic. And
because that's what Rand is doing at the moment when he's moving around.
Men and women travel differently. Like when Rand, he does the, bring the places together, like the movie trope of the 2 pieces of paper pushing a pencil through it. Yeah. And that's what he explains to her in the palace when they have like a brief chat after the embassy is there and they leave, and then they have a chat and he's like, oh yeah, no, she asked him, so what's all this traveling about? And he goes, oh no, I do this thing. Yeah, can you do it? And he just gives her, remember I made a big deal about him, like, yeah, Egwene and the Aiel and the Aes Sedai, here's a secret on how to travel around willy-nilly.
Lucky for him, it didn't work. It wouldn't have mattered anyway.
No.
But it doesn't matter because moments later she already knows how to do it. So
yeah.
Suppose you got to go with the story. It's only 14 books, Marts. It's not enough time.
Only 14. It's a lot to cram in there. I know.
Yeah.
I know. How are we going to get all the politics in?
I'll tell you.
Oh, wait, I know. Let's dedicate all of Crossroads of Twilight to exactly that. To all our listeners, send us your thoughts about traveling and the politics in Crossroads of Twilight and everything else, your theories and your help, goddammit. Send us anything you got. You can do that by either just tweeting us at Blood and Ash Pod or use the social media links in the episode description below. Nathan Cooper had sent in some cool status box based t-shirt slogans, which kind of got me thinking about that again. So might be time to expand our range. A lot of things along the lines of I found a status box and all I got was I don't know,
lousy
impending
t-shirt.
sense of doom or something. Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah, he sent in a bunch of them. Which just leads me to remind everyone that you can follow the link from our webpage to our store and buy some of the meager offerings of t-shirts that we have at the moment. But I'm going to work with the boys to actually get some more designs up there. Next time on Blood and Ashes, we will cover chapters 37 through 42. Another 6 chapters. Chapter 37 is called When Battle Begins, and chapter 42 is called The Black Tower.
Oh. Whatever could it mean?
Whatever could it mean? Well, I don't know. You guys have read ahead. I don't.
What's the double meaning on that?
Obviously,
chapter, Moritz.
Yeah, who knows? But there are a couple quicker chapters, I think. Some fairly ominous chapter names. I know we're sort of like dancing around the fact that we are leading towards Duma as well. So one of the most affecting chapters in the entire series. Looking quite forward to that. But before we get there, we will cover chapters 37 to 42 next time. And until then, I will say to you, sleep well and wake.
Walk in the light, everyone.
Good evening.